Hello and welcome to another live. There's nothing on TV, so I thought I would do a live because I'm stupidly addicted to doing them. Don't ask me why. I'm just waiting for TikTok to notify the handful of people that it will bother notifying. TikTok doesn't like to notify people when I do my live because it doesn't like, I guess it doesn't like the truth out there. Hello to everyone that's just joining. Nothing's on TV. I was bored and I couldn't. Just nothing else. I've seen, as a film person, I've seen all the films I kind of want to see. So there's nothing much left for me to see. I'm very fussy, so I thought I'd do a live and just bore people. Avatar's notified you again. Wow, you're privileged. Bless you. Hello to everyone that's just joining. So I'm the guy that does those stupid comedy jokes that people hate. I'm the egotistical guy that Andy, ever so handy. If he comes on, oh bless him. I think he's amazing, but I swear he must think that I'm a numpty or something. Anyway, Avatar's wrote Jupiter Ascending with Mila Kunis. I watched it not too long ago on my VR headset in 3D. So yeah, I try and watch things in 3D if I can because it does, especially Gravity. I watched that when I had the PlayStation. Thank you, Jane. I had the PlayStation VR headset when it first came out, not the new one, but the older one, and I watched Gravity on Blu-ray on that. It was really really good. Really enjoyed it. And Andy's here. Good evening, how to history. Oh, hi, Andy. I'm not really a numpty, honest. I'm joking. Jane's right. Hi, sir. Hi, Jane. I need to know more about you, Jane. You keep yourself to yourself, even though you do talk on the candle show. I don't know what to call that. Thank you, Avatar. Anyone notice the background changed? So we'll see what happens today. Avatars wrote, "How cool." Yeah, I know nothing about Jane really. I've heard snippets, but that's about it. Whereas other people like Avatar, I've obviously seen pictures of her, and she's contacts me in the background and everything. Jane is that dark horse that sits there and just snipes the numpties when they come in. um, I thought I'd just let you guys know. I was listening to Irvin Finkel again, or Ivan Finkel again, the head curator of the British Museum. So he was talking on one of his lectures about dreams, the Sumerian dreams. Very interesting. Not, I don't know whether you guys are interested in that kind of thing, but um, it was very. Thank you, Kerry. How are you, Kerry? It's very interesting because he went along the lines of oracles, etc., which we know the Anunnaki had oracles, which is interesting because you got to wonder now. Apparently, they had dreams a lot. Now they would actually go and see people. These are just Sumerians, not the Anunnaki. They would go and see people, and in fact, if a king, you're going to love this one. If a king wanted to talk to a god, apparently he would go and lay in a temple and sleep and hope that he can talk through the dream to one of the Anunnaki, to a god, which I found really fascinating because obviously, why can't he just do that at home? Why does it have to be done in a temple? Which then leads you back to the psionics of the temples and the churches, which I do believe. They don't build them like that just out of grandeur. I think they build them like that out of acoustics for some reason or other. Now, there was a temple in India. I have done a little TikTok video on it. There's a temple in India that they found at the top of it was a crystal, 4-foot crystal. They called it a lingam, but it wasn't a lingam. A 4-foot crystal that was in the shape of, wait for it, a pine cone. Thank you, All Energy. A pine cone. Now, what do the Anunnaki hold? Pine cones. So Why was a 4 foot crystal on the top of a Indian temple? 4 foot. That's freaking high. It's big. Why was that on the top? Is it was it, quartz crystal? Was it a transmitter? Was it a receiver? Was it using that kind of technology? And then vibration, somehow, something comes through the church so that the whole church could maybe be an amplifier, maybe be a speaker for the Anunnaki. Now we know they had the tabernacle, and I've even read out from the Bible how I can't remember who it was. One of the characters leaves God and goes down. It's always down, isn't it? From leaving God. And then goes not only down but then across to a city. And as he was going, he was still talking to God, which is pretty impressive considering God was back in heaven, which means he was on some sort of radio communication. And he had a tabernacle with him, which basically allowed him, from my opinion, to have a portable radio to God at any point. Which, when you start reading the tabernacle, you realise, yes, they say it was a secret room. No, it was a secret room because it had the radio in it. So you could have a tabernacle anywhere. In fact, when I was in Croatia, there was a little box I went to a museum, and there was a box. I took a picture of it, and it was waffling on about it being in the same room as a tabernacle, which I found interesting. I didn't quite grasp what the box was. It was just a box, but maybe there was something in it, radio communications or something. And this was in Croatia. Now, whether or not the actual tabernacle was from Croatia or the device was from Croatia, I don't know, but it was in the museum in Croatia, which I found fascinating. Anyway, I'm boring people. History and coins, thank you. How are you? Hope you're well. Kay has wrote, I need to see sources. No worries at all. Just ask me one particular thing and I will point you to it, because the good thing is, Kay, I do give evidence. So feel free to ask any question, Kay. You've come to the right place, and I will point you to the evidence, not just a video. I will actually point you to the evidence. So, for example, if you're interested in the evidence that the Anunnaki were the gods in the Bible, I can just reel off so much evidence it'll make your head spin. You'll go, wow, didn't know all of that. But obviously, I've got many different subjects in the background now, so I'd rather you tell me one specific thing, because obviously, you might be interested in one particular thing. A name I can't read because it's in italic has wrote, look into blood type lineage, your mind will blow. Okay, so you've only just started following me, because underneath it says that you followed me. Just to give you some clues, I'm the person that worked out where RH negative come from with evidence. So if you're interested, go look at my video called Anunnaki Created Us Twice, and you will see they literally tell us that every third woman won't have a child because what they do to the women. I won't bore you, but basically, yes, it's to do with they genetically gave us RH negative blood when they recreated us a second time. So I'll blow your mind. If you watch that documentary, feel free to do so. It's on my website. I'll blow your mind. I don't mean to sound rude. I'm that good. And yes, I am big-headed, but I am that good. Scrolling down. Jane had wrote to that person, are you talking about RH negative? History and Coins wrote, thank you, Elise. Hi, Elise. Are you lot all bored as well? I was trying to find something to watch tonight and I just couldn't do it. I started to watch, it was an old film, Around the World in 80 Days with Jackie Chan. And I got about 5 minutes in. I thought, my God, I make better films than that, which I do. My films have got quite high on IMDb and everyone loves them. So that's a good thing, I guess. Sorry, I'm scrolling down. History and Coins wrote, I won't be staying long because you're tired. No worries at all, History. Thank you for even jumping on. This was a spur of the moment type thing that I thought. Elise wrote, "Hi, our true history. Hi, everyone. Hi, Elise. Nice of you to join again. There really must be rubbish on TV tonight. Hey, not that I watch terrestrial TV anymore. History and Coins wrote, okay, going back. Okay, boss, going back to say, oh, well, thank you very much for jumping in today. George has wrote myths. That's why they're called mythology. You do realise Troy has been found. George is thinking, has it? Yeah, that's the difference. So it was a myth until it was found. Georgia. Oh, didn't know that. I could go through many things, such as a cyclops. That's a myth, isn't it, Georgia? Georgia's thinking, yes, of course it is. It would come from the Greeks. No, it actually come from the Sumerians. Came from over in the Middle East. You're going to say, how the hell can it come from the Middle East when it was a Greek story? The Greeks copied the stories from the Middle East. No, yeah, we've got all the evidence that predates the Greeks. So we've actually got a carving. No, you haven't, of a cyclops in Sumeria. Yes. Wow. Now, why would they have that? Because the Anunnaki created us. No, they didn't. Yes, they did, Georgia. Come on. We've got fused chromosomes. Okay, maybe God did it in a lab. The Anunnaki tell us in their first language that they created us. You mean the very first people that could read or write actually wrote about genetics? Yes. They failed 6 times. Go look at the tablet called Enki and Nimna. Okay, this is starting to sound like these ain't myths. There you go, you're learning. Now, cyclopia, which you probably have no idea of, is a real thing where a baby is born with one eye. Oh, so that's not really a myth then? No, you can actually have cyclopia. Oh, so when I wrote myths, that's why they're called mythology, you're destroying the myths. Of course. Oh, I'm going to have to follow you, our true history. You sound like you know what you're talking about. I do, actually. I've been on radio stations, written books. I've never been debunked. I debunk everyone else, including religious people. Oh, man, you're good. Thank you, Georgia. Bless you. Feel free to follow. Andy's wrote, how do you think the Anunnaki knew about the ley lines? Do Nibiru have them as well? Very good question, Andy. See, there you go, Georgia. There's people that actually pay attention in the class. So Andy's asked a good question. Now, the reason why Andy's asked that, if you're new to me, is because when you look at the ancient monuments around the world, you'll find that they intersect, certainly the bigger ones, such as the Great Giza Pyramid, they intersect on what we class as ley lines. Now, mainstream don't call them ley lines. They actually do admit that there is energy, but they don't call them ley lines. In fact, I've brought my 3 books beside me, should anyone ask questions about anything, and I have covered ley lines in one of those books. So that's why I brought it there, just in case I can't remember absolutely everything off the top of my head. So because they used the energy from the ground to do whatever it is that they're doing, most of the buildings or you know, the stone circles, etc., did produce energy and still do. Some of them still do, including the Great Pyramid. So obviously the energy from the Earth at those intersect points is producing something that's giving the monuments energy. Otherwise, you just got stones sitting there for no reason at all, suddenly having energy. So what Andy's asking is, how did they know about the ley lines? Well, we kind of know now. We've kind of figured it out before we figured out that the monuments were on ley lines. So we kind of figured out that there was ley lines. In fact, I could read you part of the book. Which one is it? One of my books where it ley lines. Where I go through. Typical, it's not that book. It has to be this one. Has to be this one. Where I go through the ley lines. Where is it? Where is it? Don't tell me it's the first book. Bloody hell. Sorry, guys. That's why I didn't want to start reading from the books. I'm trying to remember where they are. Okay, for some reason or other, it may be other information. Anyway, long story short, we did find out about ley lines. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking about it before we worked out that the monuments were on the ley line. So how the Anunnaki probably worked it out is probably the same way that we did. Did they have them on their planet? Now, we know they're masters with stone because they do things with stone that we can't even comprehend. We can't figure out Machu Picchu and all that kind of stuff. So they're masters with stone. And clearly certainly here, they harnessed the energy. Now, if we look at how long they were here for and do a little bit of math, let's pretend they didn't build the buildings until after the flood. So they were here for 434,000 years then at that point, which is our time. Now, technically, they didn't sleep fully like they would 30 days, 30 nights, as they should do, because they keep talking about 7 days, which is why the seventh day, let this day be a day of rest. So, if we do the math, which I will try and do very quickly, bear with, because we'll try and work out whether they would have had enough time to have understood ley lines, and would they have done it here already? Now, bearing in mind some of these buildings were done prior to the Great Flood. So the question I'm asking is 434,000 years divided by 3,600.
Dividing 400.
Just give me the answer.
434,000 divided by 3,600 equals 120.
So 120 years of their time, they were here. So I would personally say they probably had ley lines on other planets, certainly on their planet. Now, obviously it's energy coming up from the ground. So would all planets have it? Possibly. I mean, there is this hexagon shape that's been seen on Mars recently. Could that have been an actual building, or could that just be cymatics again? Don't know. But it's a good question, Andy. I don't know obviously I can't give you the full answer because I haven't been to their planet, but my guess is they probably figured it out, because it seems that the buildings that they'd done that would require energy were done, I do think, for the people. Not for the people, but for them to be able to teach us, etc. Because for 330,000 years, they didn't need to teach us. It was only after the Great Flood, so there was no need for them to have Stonehenge and Henges and Adam's calendar and all the other buildings that they built around the world. They wouldn't have needed to, because they could have quite easily just got on and did what they want. So in some way, it was either changing the climate, whatever it is. I don't know what the big scheme of the thing with all the monuments around the world was doing, but they certainly did it, and I think they did it for us. But I would imagine they had that technology and knowledge on their home planet. Scrolling down, this is live. I read every single question now. Jojo had wrote to Curtis. Did I miss Curtis's message? I must have missed Curtis's message. Jojo wrote to Curtis, where can I meet the Anunnaki and the ice walls? Are there living creatures there? Well, I don't know who Curtis is, but I can answer that. You probably won't be able to meet the Anunnaki. They're more than likely, the ones that stayed here, more than likely in Antarctica, in the place where the ice shelf's broken off. So in other words, the size of America with no ice. When you say the ice walls, 0 people, and I am deadly serious, 0 people around the world has ever bumped into an ice wall anywhere other than the 2 poles, north and south. 0 people. 0. So there is no ice walls. It's people being silly and saying that there's ice walls. And then when you ask them where the ice wall is, guess what they tell you? Antarctica. And you say, why is it not behind Australia and Scotland and anywhere else? Because it's in Antarctica. But that's the ice wall that goes around the planet. Yes, they don't quite grasp. So you say, so why has 0 people? Oh, because they were warned off. Well, name one person that's warned off. I can't, because they got told not to say. So how do you know about it? Well, I am making it up. You see my point? So it's just a load of baloney. There is no ice wall. Scrolling down. D. Joe, I don't know how you pronounce that, has wrote, what is the link between the Anunnaki and the Egyptian gods? They were the same. So Ptah was Enki. So if you just look up, all you have to do is just look up what Ptah did and what Enki did, and you'll go, oh yeah, they're the same. Marduk was Ra. So Marduk was the son of Enki. He was Amun Ra and Ra. Same. One was before the flood, and one was after. Same person. And then any person in Egypt thereafter was a descendant off of Amun Ra. So, including Horus, and we've got the actual tablets that tell us that his original name was Horon. So the Egyptian translations have called it Horus, but it's actually Horon from the Sumerian tablets. So yeah, that's the connection. So Marduk owned Egypt at some point. This was after he had Babylon. So he was the god of Babylon, and then he had a bit of a to do with Inanna, and then he managed to take over or start a place which we know as Egypt, away from everyone else. Tried to get his own little armies up and running, and then he got banished. Had to go somewhere. Not 100% sure where he went. Doesn't really say. And then eventually he was allowed to come back and found that his brother had taken over Egypt and was doing a bad job of it. And then them two become sort of sworn enemies, really, after that. Was very sad. Nicole's right. Hello, Altruist History. Did the Anunnaki have burial rituals? They did indeed, yes. So they would bury people. Now, depending on who it was, if it was just a normal Anunnaki, not a royalty, they would bury him in two-ply cloth, which, funny enough, is the same cloth that Jesus's Shroud of Turin's actually got. But that's not to say that the Shroud of Turin's 100% correct, because I have done a deep dive on that if anyone wants to know. But the reason why is because obviously once the Anunnaki taught humans that when you bury someone you put two-ply cloth, then you're going to end up with people having two-ply cloth. And what they did was they buried them, but they put loads of stones on the top. So they would bury them in fairly shallow grave, not as deep as 6 foot or anything like that, probably about 4 foot. But they would then put stones over the top, and the reason why they did that was to stop the spirit coming up and out. So these are Sumerian people knew about spirits. Anunnaki knew about spirits. But if it was a god, then in other words, if it was a royal god, and because their race name's God, they're all called gods. If it was a royal one, such as Marduk, Enki, then they would have a tomb built. Now here on Earth, I would imagine their tombs would have been different on their planet. So here on Earth, they had to, because there was pesky little humans around that would be greedy and want to steal stuff. So they devised, these elaborate places, not a pyramid. Pyramid was never a tomb, but they devised these tombs that would, honor the king, the pharaoh, the royalty, whatever it is, demigod that was off of royalty. So they would put them in these tombs. Gilgamesh even had one, and he was a demigod. So they would put them in these tombs out of respect, basically, which is why, if you read the translations from the Moorhens, when Alula was buried, died on Mars, and his grandson buried him inside a mountain, inside a cave. When the Anunnaki came back to pick up the grandson, Anzu, from Mars, they found out that Alula had died, and where he was in this mountain. And according to the Moorhen translations, out of respect, because he was a king, they shot a laser beam and carved his face in this sort of, I don't know what you want to call it, massive rock, stone, mountain, whatever you want to call it. Which the suggestion there is that is the face on Mars, which is an interesting take on it, really. Laura's wrote, Nibiru, did they get a bus to Earth and music gold Spandar Ballet? They got the humour from you. Everyone's laughing. They had better humour than you, to be honest with you. Not the sharpest, are you? Moving on from silly people. Laura's wrote was see now you're asking a sensible question. You don't follow me. You make a stupid point, which wasn't even funny, and now you asked a sensible question. So if now after Jesus was born, I don't double check. There's nothing to double check on after he was born. I can tell you who his father was, but I can't tell you what names he was given after because I don't research Jesus after. So if Jesus was named as Joshua, as you've written there, then he would have been a hybrid, not Anunnaki, a hybrid. You're going to say, but hang on a minute, wouldn't if Gilgamesh was a demigod, half Anunnaki, then surely Jesus was. No, because if you look at who Jesus' father would have been, which would have been Marduk, Akhenaten's bloodline didn't live, and he'd already done. So basically, Jesus is another version of the Akhenatans. One and bring one over here.
Okay, my darling.
So yes, so he would have been. He possibly even had an elongated skull, Jesus. Feel free to watch my amazing documentary called "Who Jesus' Real Father Is," and you'll see. Ravens wrote, have you read Tim Hogan's books? And what's your opinion? I try not to, just one cut, I try not to read other people's stuff. I try because, and this is going to, you've probably heard me say before, and you know I do debunk people. So I try not to read other people's works because as soon as they make up something, I get angry because there's no point in making up stuff. I'm not saying this person has. I'm just saying I try not to because literally, as you know, every single other person makes up stuff. So I catch them out. Well, you've probably seen my 6 hours worth of me debunking everyone. So I haven't read his books, I'm afraid. Sorry. I mean, if you can give me a little bit of background on what he talks about. No more, Clark. That's enough. Stop being cheeky. Patricia's wrote, what type of beings are responsible for cattle mutilations and for what purpose? Good question. Excellent. So, go number one in the class for that. No, I've said no to, sorry, my boy's, because he knows I'm on my live chat. No, you have this. That will be for tomorrow morning.
All right, calm down, darling.
Sorry, my boy's.
You
have that for men cap tomorrow, okay?
Oh, I look at that.
Right, you have some of this. Sorry about that. So, what type of beings? Now, this is coming from whistleblowers that's gone to people like Linda Moulton Howe. So, the cattle mutilations, and from abductees that have said that they was on a ship while the cow was being drained of blood while the cow was still alive. So, basically, what seems to happen is a cattle is picked up at some point or another, injected with something, whether it's biological, a virus, we don't know what it is, but there's an incubation period. So sometime later, a month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever it is, the UFO comes back, picks back up the same cattle again, and wherever they injected, whatever they put in, whether it's in the jaw and the inside the organs, whatever it was that they done for it to incubate, they come back and they take those parts. That's why the cattle's missing eyes, that's why they're missing jaws, all sorts of stuff. Now they apparently use the blood, this plasma, to ingest as food. So this is the android type greys. These would be the Orion greys on behalf of working for the tall whites. So people have seen the greys smearing blood on their skin because they've got tiny little slits for mouth, so they can't really eat. So they ingest the blood plasma through their skin, apparently. So whatever it is genetics is what they're after. whatever they inject in, we don't know, because one animal could have something, because it's not just cows, as you know, it's horses, it's cats, it's deer, it's all sorts of animals, including humans have been found in the same style as cattle mutilation. So it's not just so it's whatever they're doing to us, they come back and pick us back up, pick whatever animal it is back up, and then take what they need, and then they drop the cow. Now we know they dropped the cow because many autopsies have shown that the ribs on one side of the cow, bearing in mind there's no blood whatsoever around it. As I say, there was a person abductee that was on a ship, and he saw a cow literally being drained of blood while the cow was still alive. It was paralysed, which is obviously how they get us as well. They paralyse us, but when they take us, so the blood is for the aliens, the genetics is for whatever it is they're up to, which they don't tell us, sadly. But good question. Dave Jones wrote, were the Gnostics right? So the Gnosticism, so when I research, I go back to the first mention of it. I don't do what other people do. Trust me, I know that other people don't go that far back. They'll just go, oh, well, in the 8th century, it said that, Gnosticism said that God was going to do this, blah, 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 blah. And they'll just make up a lot of crap that was said back then. I don't do that. I go back to the very, very beginning. And I have done a deep dive into Gnosticism. In the very beginning, all it was that Gnosticism is just a belief of an afterlife. That was all it is. Very simple. But you look at it now, and people bolted on so much rubbish to it. I don't know, over the years. I don't know why people do that, but they do. So when you say were Gnostics right in terms of is there life after death? Yes, and that's based off of many, many things: clairvoyance, my own personal experience, University of Virginia, and their research, etc., etc. Thank you, whoever's doing the hearts and whatever's on the side. This is live. I read every single question there. Kelso's wrote, calling yourself an expert is wild. Well, let me see if you follow me so I can break it down. You do follow me, so there's your first point. You you follow me because I'm good. But let me just explain something to you. Let me read the rest of it first. So much stuff we can't know for sure, and looked into it all of it. So okay, so what you've done is you haven't quite grasped what the word expert means. Now you're assuming wrongly that an expert has to know absolutely every single thing. You get my point now? You're thinking, oh crap, he's doing it again, he's going to debunk me now. Sorry, don't hate me. So an expert is someone that's top of the field in what they look at, or as damn good as they can get. Now, when you look at the other people that are in my field, I've debunked them all. The only one I haven't debunked is Linda Moulton Howe. But Billy Carson, David Wilcox, Graham Hancock, the list just goes on. You go watch my videos, you'll see. So where Billy Carson calls himself one of the foremost experts, and I debunk him literally every single video he ever does, and I show evidence and he doesn't, that has to make me the expert. Would you not agree? Bearing in mind, the level of being an expert isn't to know absolutely every single thing in the whole wide world, because when you go to court and you have an expert witness come in, they can't know absolutely everything, and you're thinking, oh crap, yes, he's right. Yeah, I know I'm right. That's why you follow me. So calling myself an expert, because I am. What else? I don't know what else to say. I know it sounds big-headed, but let's be honest. If I'm good, I'm good. Yes, I am big-headed. Paul's wrote, stressed any relevance to Anunnaki? Sorry, Starseed. Sorry, I thought it said stress there quickly. Starseed, any reference to Anunnaki? No. So the Starseeds are... I mean, a couple of people made up some other stuff to do it, but the original starseed was to do with orbs, light energy beings, the ones that's already been round once, coming back in the 60s in two tranches in the 60s and then 70s to join with newborn babies and try and raise their frequency to get our frequency for the planet to 50%. Ain't going to happen. Didn't happen. Whether or not that was even a real thing, but that's what I heard. So nothing really to do with the Anunnaki. Sorrells wrote, what's with crystal skulls? So what we have is skulls that defied the ability to build them, even back when even if they were fake, which they're not, still defied the technology back then to be able to do it as good as they done. You know, literally 2-piece crystal but it's 1 piece for what they call the Mitchell Hedges skull, the death skull. That's 1 piece, no mistakes in it whatsoever, flawless. So we've got 4 that we're aware of. There's private collectors, there's got others. So we've got 1 in the British Museum, donated. 1 in the Louvre, donated. 1 in the Smithsonian, donated. Now, the Smithsonian's a tricky one because the woman that works there, Jane Walsh, she was the one that tried to debunk wait for it, the Mitchell Hedges skull one, which isn't in a museum. They never sold it. They long story, but they never sold it. They found it over in Mesoamerica in a temple, apparently, according to them, and they never sold it. They never really made any money off of it. So anyway, they allowed people to scrutinize it. So Smithsonian scrutinized it. Now they had their own one. Funny that. And do you know what? Because there's scratch marks on it, they said that these were tool marks and rotary marks, and therefore it couldn't have been ancient. Not that Mitchell Hedges said it was ancient. He just said that he found it in the building. So so they're saying that he's lying, but he never said it was old. He just said, look, I found it in this building. Feel free to, examine it. So you can tell straight away that Smithsonian are lying to try and make him look like a liar, even though he was not lying in the first place. Anyway, I have done videos with evidence showing that ancient India had rotary tools way, way back, thousands of years ago. So where Jane Walsh is trying to say, well, rotary tools didn't really come about until, 100 years ago, 200 years ago. Baloney. Thank you, Shabazz. Absolute baloney. Now, if you know anything about the Smithsonian, you know that they lie. They hide the giant skeletons, and we know people have found giant skeletons and donated them to the Smithsonian. We never see them. So do not believe the Smithsonian. The funny thing is, because she said she even wrote a book saying that they're fake. Wait for it. Thank you, Shabazz. She wrote a book saying they're fake. And guess what? I've done a documentary if you're interested. You can see it from my website. Thank you, Shabazz. She'd done a book saying they're fake. However, if you go on the Louvre website, if you go on the British Museum website, and if you go on the Smithsonian website, they say that they don't know whether they're fake, the ones that they've got. Isn't that funny? So she says they're fake, but the museums who have them on show, their ones, don't know whether they're fake or not. So you can clearly tell there were some biases. Now, when you look into Jane Walsh's history of where she studied, the words Rockefellers pop up. Now, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but if you know anything about the Rockefellers, you'll know where I'm going with this. Feel free to watch my amazing documentary on crystal skulls. It's probably the best documentary you'll ever see, from my website in the background there, if you can read that. Samantha's wrote, Bermuda Triangle, did planes and boats actually go missing, or is it something else? They did. They genuinely did. So I have done a whole chapter in one of my books on Bermuda Triangle. They did go missing. So generally what happened first was there was some planes that had come back from a mission, and they were going over, 2 of them or something, I can't remember, it's in my book. 2 of them were going over the Bermuda Triangle, as a sort of a flyby type thing. Just I can't remember. There was something like that. It wasn't. They could have come back into land, but they didn't, from what I understand. Anyway, they went missing. So the other planes plus another one went out looking for them, and they went missing. And then they sent a boat out, if I'm not mistaken, and that went missing. And since then, things kept going missing. We've actually got audio recordings from pilots where they're flying over, in their own little Cessnas, things like that, little small planes, where they're flying, and it's a beautiful clear day, and then they set the radio in saying, "Oh, there's what looks like a mist or a fog suddenly appeared in front of them." One case that happened. Next thing he knows, he's now hundreds and hundred miles away from where he was, and he was picked up by a different radio tower, literally within a minute of him saying that he saw the fog. Another time, a pilot radioed in, and we've got the audio record. You can go find them. Another one radioed in and said something's not quite right. He sees something, he can't quite work it out in the sky. Very panicked, couldn't work it out, wasn't missed this time, and his radio goes silent. So the radio went silent prior to the radar not picking him up anymore. So it went silent, and then I think it was about 30 seconds or 40 seconds before his transponder disappeared, and never to be seen again. Now, mainstream will tell you that it was to do with methane coming up from the bottom of the ocean, and thereby, causing a pocket of air that's lighter than our air, and it sinks the ship and all that kind of baloney. Also, mainstream have said, it was the weather. But of course, if it's the weather, then we should have more and more planes crashing, disappearing. Now, people still go over the Bermuda Triangle, so we should have more and more planes, because according to the climate change, our weather's worse than whatever was before. But that doesn't seem to be the case, because less planes have actually gone missing in recent times. Now, they have actually set up perimeters around, so they've got these sort of tracking devices now in the water that basically cover the pyramid, the triangle, so they can actually pinpoint exactly what's happening if someone's flying over or a boat's going over. So yes, things definitely went missing. Now, there was a report of a pyramid being spotted, I don't know, 10, 20 years ago, whatever it was. And there was a photograph in the newspaper. You can go and look it up online. Bermuda Triangle Pyramid. Now, once that was released, the problem is, once that's released, then probably not allowed to go back there. They probably got warned off, because obviously if it is a pyramid, then how the hell did a pyramid get at the bottom of the Bermuda Triangle, and why? And would the pyramid be the one that's causing the disturbances, or would it be causing aliens to come there, or whatever it is? So it's very fascinating. I do cover a hell of a lot more in my book, if anyone's interested in reading that chapter on Bermuda Triangle. Laura's wrote, no, thank you, Samantha. No, the Earth is round as down under in Oz. They are good at backstroke for the crawl. Yeah, I'm just going to block you, because you're really not funny. Sorry. It's just like wasting my time reading that baloney out. Samantha's wrote, is that your dishwasher or washing machine in the background? It's as loud as you. It is my washing machine. See, you all think that I just sit here in the same clothes day in, day out. You're right. Someone else is using the washing. No, I'm joking. No, I put it on just before I did this live. I was going to watch TV, so I put the washing machine on, but I've got an open plan front room where you can bloody see the kitchen, which I don't like, but oh well. Samantha's wrote, or maybe a tumble dryer. It is a tumble dryer as well, but I never use a tumble dryer because I'm thick and I don't know how to turn it on. But also, when my daughter uses a tumble dryer, it's like 4 hours later, and I'm like, for God's sake, we could have just hanged them up. it's 4 hours of electricity just wasted for just the sake of hanging something up. Kerry's wrote, "Hello, Clark, darling. Oh, don't say that. He's come, he's gone, he's nicked his whatever he can get out of me." Bless you, Kerry. Dejo's wrote, "Thank you. It was very interesting." No worries at all. That's what I'm here for. The background's slightly different today, so I don't know whether that's going to entice people in or make it worse. I think we found that the religious one where I say we have evidence that the Anunnaki were the gods in the Bible, that seems to get the most views, but we also seem to get the most religious people that don't know what they're talking about, which is very sad. Gen X is right. Funny how they claim the skulls were fake, but they still are keeping the fake skulls. Yeah, well, technically they the museums didn't call it fake. Jane Walsh did. She even wrote a book. So although she works for the Smithsonian, they didn't call them fake. They didn't go so far as to do that, but she did, and she wrote a bloody book. So yeah, don't trust that. June X has wrote, with Nibiru being so far from the sun, what do you think they use to light up their planet? Brilliant question. So they did glow. I mean, literally if you've watched you probably have watched my documentary on the god's skin color. I went through absolutely every single mention, Norse, Greek, Babylonian, Bible, you name it. Every one of them they glowed. So, being far away from the sun, they had their own. I wouldn't say that they lit up a room. However, Noah, which was Enki's son, lit up a room. So I don't know how bright they are, but they clearly seem bright enough for people to talk about them being bright. So how they lit up. Now, when the Anunnaki first came here, if you're religious, you don't want to hear this next bit. When the Anunnaki first come here, so the Genesis is referring to the planets forming and getting into their orbits. But Genesis also talks about the Anunnaki arriving here, so it mixes the two together. So I can't remember which day it was, but on one of the days they set up a luminary. Might have been the first or second day. They set up a luminary in the sky. Now, whether that's a anti-gravity light ball, whether that was a light source that they put in space, in a geosynchronous orbit, or whether or not it was a balloon that had a light on it, I don't know. But they did put a luminary up high. So if they had the ability to do that, could they have the ability to have lights elsewhere on their home planet? Yes. What kind of light that is? Now, there is another tablet. I can't remember where I read it, but I did read it, where I think, I might be wrong, it might have been Marduk, who moved a luminary from one place to another. And it was a massive ball from the description of it. So their lighting system, we have street lights. They have one massive ball by the sounds of it, which is very interesting to me because, that makes a lot of sense because obviously the sun is a ball and it gives us light and we have bulbs that we put up high. So, that seems to be what they did. But what kind of did they use for their home planet? I would imagine the same sort of thing that they used here. But I don't know what that is. I mean, we've got there's a carving called the Dendera. I don't know if you know about it. It's called Dendera, and it's in Egypt, and it's the one that kind of looks like a bulb with a snake inside, which maybe a snake or it may be a filament. But there is definitely 100% a wire, a cable coming from the bottom of that big sort of elongated bulb, going along the ground into a box. The box is being sat on by one of the gods, one of the Anunnaki gods, but as an Egyptian god. So that they had wire. That is a no-brainer. There's no getting around that, regardless whether it's a bulb or not. That was a wire. So clearly they had wires the ability to have wires. So good question, Janex. Go number 2 in the class for that. I like that question. Glorious has put something that I have to translate. Bear with. I drew the prophet and fought Allah Saeed. I drew the prophet and fought Allah Saeed. The problem is when you say the prophet, I don't see any prophets. I see people manipulating what they want to get what they want. So, oh, hang on, I'm a prophet right now. You all send me money because I'm a prophet. I say I'm a prophet, send me money. Do you see my point? So when you have people like David Koresh, when you have the Mormons saying that they were told by, no one else sees it, when they're told by, an angel or a god that they're special and, write a book and make sure that it benefits man, not women. I struggle with that. Sorry, don't hate me, but I can see through it as clear as day. But other people don't. Men don't seem to want. Certain people don't want to see what it is because that it benefits them. Dotters wrote, who do you think carried the stone to Stonehenge? Oh, Anunnaki. So in the Moorhen translations, there was a time period coming up where it was going to switch over from Enlil to Marduk. Marduk ended up becoming Yahweh, but at that point it wasn't. It was the year of. Now I'm going to get this probably wrong. It was the time of the. It was either the ram or the bull. I can't remember which way around. And one of them was the ram, one of them was the bull, and it wasn't time yet. So according to the Moorhen translations, they would allow the switch over when it is the time of one of them. I think Marduk is the bull. I think he's the bull. So in order for everyone around the whole planet to understand when that is, they went round and built these henges. So it wasn't just Stonehenge. There was henges all over the place. In fact, if you read the Book of Enoch, Enoch gets taken to a henge, but it wasn't obviously the one in England. It was in the Middle East. So yes, there's henges all over the place, and that was basically a calendar saying that when the time is right. And in fact, in the Book of Enoch, it explains how the calendar works. It actually explains how the Stonehenge works, which is exactly what we think now. We understand that it is a calendar and that, equinox, etc., and how it works. So yes, the only thing with Stonehenge, our Stonehenge, is because it was moved. They said it was restoration, but they moved it. And do you know why they moved it? Because if someone like me would have went, hang on a minute, where is Stonehenge? And I would have looked at the timing of it, because obviously now it wouldn't have had, because many years had passed, it wouldn't be accurate. So in other words, it's been moved so that it's now accurate. That's why we get the winter solstice, summer solstice, equinox, etc. correctly with Stonehenge. So they didn't restore it. They moved it, the little buggers. And they moved it because someone smart like me, forgive me for sounding rude, someone like me would have said, aha, where it is now, let's roll back the clock and work out when that would have been actually having the equinox properly going through the sun. In other words, the sun going through what they called gates. That's what's in the Book of Enoch. And I would have been able to work out from that when it was built. Now, mainstream don't want us to know that because obviously they've probably done the same calculations and realised that it was way before we had the ability to build Stonehenge. Way before. So they don't want us to know that. So that's the reason why they pretended that they restored it, but yet also moved it at the same time. Just restore it, put it back exactly where it was, but they didn't. They moved it, little buggers. We've got video footage of them doing it, so we know they freaking well moved it. So who do you think moved it? Moved the stones? And Ninurta. He went round. He was told to go around and build henges. So everything seems to match perfectly with the Moorhen's translations as well as my research. So good question. Go number 3 in the class for that. Good question. Dozers wrote, who cares? We still pay the bills to PDFs. When you say who cares, you do follow me. Think of it this way. Imagine that all the religions just stopped because they realised that it was an alien race. The wars over in Palestine, Gaza, and all those places will stop because they'll say, what are we fighting for now? What are we fighting for? So when you say who cares, it will change the planet. So for the better. So I care. I don't know about you. I would love for every single religious person to go, oh crap, we've been sold a crock of crap. Women get their rights back. Seriously, women get their rights back in certain places that are being subdued, in my opinion. So yes, I care. Maybe I'm the only one, but I care. Jane had wrote to Dozer, if this isn't the live for you, scroll on. Or you could insert a different word there at the end where it says, please scroll on. You could insert the word, 2 words, but Jane's too nice to write that. Scrolling down, this is live. I read every single question. Samantha wrote, thank you for answering. I haven't got to that chapter, Bermuda Triangle. May watch your video too. Thank you. Genexus wrote, I wonder if humans will glow if we visit Nibiru, or that ability was taken out of humans' second creation. Well, it's an interesting question. Go number 3 in the class for that. So we know that Noah glowed. We know someone's just been blocked. Scroll to the bottom. We know Moses glowed at some point. And now if you watch my video on who Moses was, I do believe he was another child of Enki's again. So I think in order for us to glow, I think we would have needed to evolve a hell of a lot, not just sort of stay in the dark, because there are animals that's in the dark in caves that are not, suddenly, blind and all that kind of stuff, even though they may have only got there, 100 years, 1,000 years, 2,000 years, 10,000 years, I don't know. But I think the ones that really are, albino in caves, the ones that sort of glow, the ones that have ultraviolet lights in caves, which they do, crawfish do, and so on. So, in caves that's completely blacked out. So I think it would, if we went to their planet, I think it would take a very long time for us to suddenly, over time, become a glowing species. Sorry, it scrolled to the bottom, so I'm just trying to find. I'm guessing that was a religious person, didn't like what I said earlier, which is why one of the moderators had to block them. Religious people, this is not your type of live. You are not interested in evidence. Feel free to move along. That's all we can really say. Scrolling down. I'm trying to find where I was. Sorry. Crystal skulls, nearly there. Nibiru. Light up the sky. Stonehenge. Pay the bills. And Samantha, thank you. Nearly there. Okay, so the next question was Cryptas wrote, conclusion, pineal gland. It's a because it's got a certain type of crystal in it. I have covered that, I think, in one of my books. It's got a certain type of crystal in it, which can be a transmitter and receiver, just like a radio. So I believe from my research that an orb joins with it while you're in the womb, and it learns every single thing you do. So it's an entity that joins with us. So the pineal gland is the eye of Horus. So if you cut a skull front to back, you'll see the actual eye of Horus shape is actually the same shape as the middle part of the brain, and the eye is smack bang right where the eye is on the eye of Horus. So that whole shape of the eye of Horus is actually part of what looks like a brain when you slice it in half. Feel free to look that up. So yes, it's the seat of the soul. It's the third eye. It's whatever you want to call it. It's basically where the orb joins. Cryptos wrote, internet already existed in ancient times. and then wrote the human was obliterated from existence, civilization, and started over again. So unfortunately, the reason why you made that load baloney up is because you don't follow me. So there's your first problem. Second problem is I'd literally just finished doing a humongous deep dive on whether or not there has been civilizations prior to the Anunnaki coming here, just like you just said. You've just said that humans was obliterated from existence and started over again. So I've done a humongous deep dive. Do you know how much evidence there is of what you've just made up? None. We have 5 extinction events, but humans weren't around and we've got no evidence. So please don't make up stuff. Now you're probably thinking, oh no, I was right. Well, show me the evidence, because I've just finished a video and I certainly couldn't find any evidence. And I'm good at what I do, so show me the evidence. Show me it right now. Crypt, if you're still here, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get one bit of evidence from millions of years ago, not recently, because what actually happened, if you watch my amazing documentary on the resets, I called it global resets, you'll find that people come out like you do. Oh, millions of years ago, we humans were here. But when you actually boil down to what they actually start talking about, they start talking about things like Bimini Road and, you know, the Cryptos wrote Hidden Knowledge. No, I've asked you for evidence. So here we go. So basically, when I ask people for evidence, ladies and gentlemen, what happens is they will give me a baloney answer just like that, which wasn't evidence. They will either change the subject, they'll ask me a question, or they'll be rude, or they'll disappear. So let's see. Cryptos wrote Graham Hancock's. Like I was just saying, when it boils down to it, it comes back to the period that the Anunnaki were here not millions of years ago. And now when the Anunnaki were here, we were here, basically, from 300,000 years ago. So we never was wiped out. So don't say Graham Hancock says we were wiped out. He says there was an advanced civilization that we've now lost the knowledge of, but he doesn't say that there was a complete civilization that's wiped out and restarted again, just so happens to be same, you know, humans that were already here. So unfortunately, what you've done is you've watched Graham Hancock and made up your own mind, which is a dangerous thing to do when you have your kind of mind, unfortunately. So, like I say, there is zero evidence that humans were wiped out. We do have a great flood, but we didn't all die out. Otherwise, if every single, think about this, come on, you're not that daft, are you? If every single, if we had an extinction of the dodo birds, and then suddenly the dodo birds come back, how did the dodo birds come back? Therefore, it wasn't a total extinction. So let me read what you wrote again. The human was obliterated from existence. So if you can explain to me how we no longer existed, but then suddenly we're back, you're thinking, yeah, he does make a good point. Yes. That's why you should follow me. Cryptos wrote, go check yourself. Yeah, the bit you're obviously not the sharpest, are you? So I have said quite clearly that I have just finished a documentary where I've done a humongous deep dive and couldn't find anything from millions of years ago. I can find stone buildings that the Anunnaki had that got flooded over. I can show you all of that, same as Graham Hancock can. So when you're telling me to go research, I have done the research, which is why you cannot. They never can tell me where the research, what they do. They did it to Jane the other day, where Jane said, show me the evidence. And this person said, go research. We all know that means you haven't got any evidence. It just means you're trying to hope that the person's not thick enough to go and go away and research. But I've already done that. Ah, dear me. Cryptos wrote, Freemasons know this. Freemasons are aware of the Anunnaki, yes, but they're not aware of a human civilization being obliterated from existence and then suddenly reappearing again out of magic. And then you wrote, yes, indeed, the Great Flood. So if you actually go by the Moorhen translations, there was still people here. In fact, if you go by the Epic of Gilgamesh, people still survived. So when you say obliterated from existence, no, that's why we're still here. We thinned out. Hell yes, we thinned out. That's why the Anunnaki created us twice. They recreated us a second time. Even though we were still here, we had Upanishadam. You'll know him as Noah and his family, and there's other people that still survived as well, which you can go to look at the Moorhen translations from the tablets in Columbia University. But see, I'm pointing to you where these things are, and you just said go research. I'm pointing to them. You can't point to wherever you're talking about. So basically, no, the Great Flood. And let me read what you wrote again. So you're saying it's the Great Flood. The human was obliterated from existence, civilization, and started over again. And you're saying that was because of the Great Flood. So who was here that recreated us the second time then after the Great Flood? The Anunnaki did, but we also know that the Anunnaki tells us that Noah survived and many others survived. In fact, Cain's family, if you bother to read the translations, some of Cain's descendants had survived and were on Mount Ararat. So we didn't all die out. So unfortunately, you're wrong there, and I can show you the evidence if you so wish, but you clearly don't want to know about evidence. Then hang on, wait for it, everybody. This is why my intellect destroys people. Yes, I'm big-headed. Yes, I'm stupid, but this is where I totally destroy that crypt person. They wrote, yes, the elites survived. So let me read out again the bit where they said totally obliterated the existence of humans, but not all of them. He's now saying that the elites survived. So the total obliviation, you don't even know what you wrote, do you? Cryptus wrote, all right, I'm wrong. Thank you. Actually, one of the first people to actually, grow a pair and say that. So no worries at all. Thank you. No, I appreciate that. I really do, honestly, because the amount of people that make up stuff. So actually, you've gone up in my estimate now. So I'm lost for words actually, because I just do what I do, and I point out all the things, and they just become rude, etc. But you've actually put your hands up, so I'm shocked. I appreciate that. I genuinely appreciate that. That's fantastic. That is fantastic. So you've gone well up in my estimation. Cringes wrote Free Palestine. I was hoping that I'd get free parking, but I guess if you want to go with Free Palestine, you can. See, every time I pass go, I collect £200. But when I land on free parking, there's no money in there. I don't know what happens. Someone always gets there first. Sorry, I try and make jokes of everything, as you can probably tell. But that person's been blocked by the moderator. I guess they were preaching. To be fair with you guys, I have no knowledge, and nor do I want to. I know it sounds bad, of what's going on over there, because it's probably too involved for me to learn what's going on to try and pick a side. There's so much probably behind closed doors that I don't know. There's probably so much history that I don't know. So for me to look at it, because media will spin it one way, whatever way they want to spin it, they'll spin it. Thank you, Alfredo. So I'm not stupid enough to listen to the media, because I know they're spinning it for whatever benefit that they want it for, not for the people. All I can say is that I don't like innocent people getting hurt. That's all I can really say. Cryptid wrote, ancient highly technological civilization. Well, it was the Anunnaki, just to help you out. They had master builders, which ended up becoming a guild and then became Freemasons. But those were humans, so it was the Anunnaki that had the technological civilization. Cryptus wrote, history is written on stone in plain sight. I know I've solved many things that no one else has even come close to even thinking that could be solved. Thank you, Al. Ignore my egotistical side, unless you've seen my videos already, in which case you know why I'm egotistical. It's not because of the research I do, it's because the amount of people that make up stuff. That's why I've become this egotistical person, which is very sad. Samantha's wrote, may watch your video too, so it's easier for me to remember. I meant, no worries. Thank you, Carmen. Bless you. Carmen's back. Yay. I haven't done a video on Bermuda, but I have done a video on. I did do the chapter. So if you're a Patreon subscriber, the chapter, if it's not already out yet, will be put on the Patreon page. So don't panic. You will get it as an audio, which is probably easier for you if you don't like reading. The next video I'm doing, if anyone's interested, so I've got thousands of documentaries from Norse gods, anything in the background, plus loads more. But the next one that I'm doing is actually the Baltic Sea anomaly. Thank you, Jane. Anyone remember the Baltic Sea anomaly? Or UFO, shall we say? The one that looks like the Millennium Falcon. Someone asked me to one of my patrons, I can't remember if it was Alex or Andy, but someone asked me to look into it again. Now, funny enough, there has been a new development just this year. Dun, dun, dun. So it was perfect timing to look into it. And I found also a little bit more out about it as well. So I am doing a deep dive into that. So where I did a sort of 3 or 4 TikTok videos on it, I'm now going to do a full video with stuff that you probably never heard of before, with evidence, because I'll be using audio from the person that actually was there. So it's going to be great. Darwin's wrote, hi Darwin, nice of you to join. Crypt has wrote, don't be mad. Sorry, Crypt, but you won't believe the amount of people we get on here that just make up stuff. And we ask them for evidence. I start off polite, but so I'm not mad. My respect for you has gone wildly up. So it's all good here, and we're all good. Crypt has wrote, go travel to Egypt. I'm guessing that was to do with the advanced civilizations. Yes, fully aware of that. Andy's wrote, why do you think there is not so many carving statues, etc. of Marduk? It's a very good question. I did mention that the other day, and I think you've picked up on it. So well done for picking up on it. Very well done. So the carvings that we've got of Marduk, that we can 100% say are Marduk, are with his pet Mushu, which mainstream called a dragon. It's not a dragon, but so we know what Marduk looked like from that. I mean, he just looks like all the other bloody Anunnakis, to be honest with you. They all do look the same, which is really weird because Billy Carson says, they're all different races, and there are even different races of aliens. That's what Billy says. And yet he shows AI images instead of showing the carvings, because if he showed the carvings, they all look the freaking same. But of course he uses AI images because he's making up a load of crap. Anyway, so why do I think he's not got carvings? It's a really good question. I need to think long and hard about why he hasn't. We do have a carving of him, and it may be him, maybe Elle, on some pottery with his wife. So I don't know. He looks a bit too young to be Enlil. So that may have been Marduk with another wife. So obviously he could have married over and over again. So why he's kept himself out the limelight, for whatever reason, or it could have been as simple as Inanna still having an issue with him sending humans to go and smash up anything to do with Marduk. Could be like that. So it's a tricky one. I don't know. I'd need to have a long, hard think on it. But it is a good question. So go number 3 in the class of that. Cryptos wrote, yeah, go look for yourself. That was what was pinned up. Cryptos wrote, I'm not against you. No worries. So no, I just if you listen to me, you'll if you listen to long enough, you'll see that not only do people make up stuff, I do get a little bit frustrated with people making up stuff, only because I've spent 40 plus years every single day researching. So for people to just come along and make up something, it really frustrates me. Sorry. Obey has wrote, talk about Halal stroke Tamush. I don't know what they are. Sorry, I've not. If they're from the Quran, then if they are, I don't know if they are, but I'm just saying if they're from the Quran, there's no point for me looking at the Quran. It's like me writing a book and telling you that book that I've just given you is 100% correct. You're going to say, but hang on a minute, you just knocked that book up. There you go. That's why I go back to the original source. I go back to why the Quran would have been written, who wrote it, and why he would have wrote it, and what benefits him when he could have quite easily said to the angel, do me a favour and show your face to all these other people, but he didn't over 17 odd years. So that's the reason why there's no point in me memorizing the Quran, because it's a book that was written by one person and benefits his family at the time, etc., etc. You get the idea. So I don't know if that's what you're referring to. So sorry, I don't know if you've not heard those names before. Cryptus wrote Rick Strassman pineal gland. I don't know who Rick is, but as you probably heard me talking about pineal gland a moment back. Cryptus wrote, I went to Egypt by myself. I bet the bloody scammers tried to sell you all sorts of stuff. One of my ex-girlfriends was married in the Great Pyramid to an Egyptian. So yeah, so I've never been to be. I know you're going to say, well, why hasn't I been? I don't know why I haven't been. I could go. I was offered to go with my ex-girlfriend 5 years ago, whatever it was, but she went and I didn't. I don't know why. But she brought me back sand and many other knickknacks and bits and pieces. Samantha's wrote, Anunnaki first in Africa. When were they in Egypt, please? So it was a very good question, actually. Go number 2 in the class. I like the question. So technically, the first place that the Anunnaki was in was a place called Eridu, which is the bottom of the Middle East, right near the Persian Gulf. We know that because we've got all the tablets that tell us exactly that, and we've also got the buildings, what they now call the Ube period. So we know they're the oldest buildings in the world in terms of any kind of structure to buildings instead of just a cave. But yes, the Anunnaki. Well, Enki went over to Africa, so and took created humans and got them to work there. Egypt's a tricky one, time-wise. My guess. So there is a pre-flood and after the flood, Egypt. There's a complete difference between one and the other. One is, the carvings on rocks and buildings, etc., are immaculate, literally laser. And then after the flood, they're all, not perfect. They look like someone's done it with a hammer and chisel. Let me think. Because I haven't put this in my timeline. So when would Marduk have took over Egypt? I would hasten a guess around 18,000 years ago, give or take. So this would have been after Babylon, when he became. Then he got banished. Then he came back, and then the flood happened. So yes, thank you, Samantha. I would say about 18,000 years ago is when he first started to populate with whatever people we could grab. To have basically pre-dynastic Egypt. Scrolling down. Balls wrote, what do you think about Tartaria? So I did a deep dive on Tartaria. Turns out it was a Mongolian empire 500 years ago. That's it. They had land. That's it. Now, people will tell you that it was an advanced civilization a few hundred years ago. So you ask them for evidence, and they'll say, well, there was, advanced tech. Well, show me the tech. Well, we can't. So that ends that. Then they'll tell you, oh, look at the buildings. And you say, okay, no worries at all. Show me where it says built by a Tatarian. And they'll say, no, we can't. But look at the buildings. This is how I have it, honestly. Look at the buildings. And I say, no problem at all. So how do you know it's a Tatarian? Well, look at the buildings. Yeah, I'm looking. So how do you know it's a Tatarian and not a Freemason? Because it has to be Tatarian, because they're an advanced civilization. Show me the evidence. Well, look at the technological stuff that they done. Well, show me. They had mobile phones. Show me. I can't. So it just goes round and round and round. So no, there is no modern Tatarian. It was a Mongolian empire that some people just made up crap as they do. Patricia's wrote, what was the real purpose of the Great Wall of China? I've not looked into it. It's a very good question. I've not looked into the Great Wall of China. Interestingly, it is made of blocks that have quartz in it. Now, if you know anything about my research, I believe that the quartz in all of the ancient monuments, because even the Mao statues have got quartz in them. It seems that quartz is what's the key to the levitation for them to be moved. So I don't know. I've not looked into the Great Wall of China. One day I might. The reason why I haven't is because on the surface there's no connection with the Anunnaki, and I kind of don't really want to get bogged down with Battle of Hastings and Henry VIII and all the things that's not paranormal. I kind of like the alien stuff. So if the Great Wall of China turns out to be just a wall that was built because they wanted to keep out one side of somewhere, Mongolians or whatever, I don't know, the Tatarians even, then that would be a waste for me. But one day I might look into it, only because the wall is got quartz in it, which is a very interesting angle, because all of the other places, Namnadol, you name it, all those buildings have got quartz in them. The only ones that don't seem to have quartz in them are the ones that's been built into the rock, into the bedrock. So India's got a lot of buildings that's been built directly into the rock. Jordan, for example, places like that, where they don't have to levitate the buildings, but they could actually just take the rock out. They don't seem to have quartz in them, which makes me more think that I'm more right. Andy wrote, from your research, what do you think Marduk's agenda was with Jesus? Very good question. Go number one in the class. I like that. So from my research, if anyone's interested, watch my documentary on who Jesus' real father is. You'll see that it would have been Marduk. Now, Marduk had already done what he'd done with Jesus. He'd already created a family that ended up changing. So basically where Marduk was booted out of Egypt and then came back, that was at the point where he would have probably, at some point around that time, I imagine, I might be wrong, come up with the idea of creating a hybrid species to rule Egypt on his behalf. And when I say hybrid species, the ones with the elongated skulls, genuine elongated skulls. And of course, we know that Akhenaten's family bloodline goes back, starts off with, I think, Imhotep the First. I might be wrong. Can't remember the bloody name. But anyway, they end up worshipping, that bloodline ends up worshipping Aten, which was Marduk, which was the sun god. Ra was the sun god. Amen is the sun god. They're all the same. So what purpose would he have had of creating a Jesus to go around if he didn't give him a position of power? Which is a very interesting question, because obviously he did give Imhotep, if it was Imhotep, he just made him straight away, bang, suddenly you're a new pharaoh that suddenly appeared with an elongated skull. And then their family, that bloodline after that, all had elongated skulls. So what benefit would there have been creating Jesus if he didn't put him into, kingship like you would expect him to have done, or a pharaoh or something? It's a very good question. The only thing I can suggest is that he may have created more than one. And maybe the other one ended up being someone important, maybe King David, maybe, someone like that. Maybe he created more than one, and Jesus was just like, the runt of the litter, for example. Hard to say, but you make a good point that logically, what was the point if he's just asking Jesus to go around and just preach, really? And I mean, it doesn't even seem, from what I understand, it doesn't even seem like Jesus was really preaching that hard. It was just like, yeah, I am my Father, all that kind of crap. But he could have created many more, so Jesus could have just been one that didn't quite, fit the mold, shall we say, for whatever reason. So it's an interesting thought. I'd probably need to research that more to try and work out if there was another one where one of the other kings. Thank you, Millie. Where's maybe around that time, 2000 BC, well, 2000 years ago, 0 BC, whether any of suddenly, yeah, maybe I should do that. Maybe I should look into whether there was suddenly a king or a pharaoh suddenly appeared out of nowhere, possibly with an elongated skull, or more than one, and then that would suggest then that he did do more than one, in which case Jesus was just, the runt of the litter. That would make sense to me. History and Coins, I'm back. Hello, sir, says Alfredo. Hello, class. Sorry I'm late. I just flew in from Taiwan. Yes. So I did a TikTok video the other day, and I was trying to read over the phone, and I'm worried about Clark in the background making noise, etc., etc. And I said, instead of saying Taiwan, I said Tuan. And I have admitted a billion times that my pronunciations is crap. And Alfredo's picked up on the twang and is now making fun of me. History and Coins, right? I couldn't sleep. You couldn't sleep because you knew you was missing missing this live chat. Sorry. Scrolling down, this is live. I read every single question out. Ella's wrote, Are you a Christian? No. I go by evidence, and the evidence, 100%. If anyone wants to see the evidence, who wants to see the evidence? I say this every single freaking day. Who wants to see the evidence that the Anunnaki were the gods in the Bible? Who wants to see evidence that can nail it? That you'll then, next time anyone ever mentions the Bible, you just go, nope, we've got evidence. Who wants to see that evidence? All you have to do, it's on YouTube. It's my documentary with evidence. I mean, my God, it's hours worth of evidence, but you only need 10 minutes to prove. So go to my website, ourtruehistory.co.uk. It's in the background. History. I read that, History and Coins. Yeah. Go to my website, ourtruehistory.co.uk. Scroll down on the homepage to where it says click here. That'll take you to YouTube. Save it, watch it whenever you want. Sit back, and because I do this every single day. I tell people to go and watch. No one bothers. But if you did, you'll go, wow. Next time he's on live, I will say I watched it, and that is freaking amazing. There's no way, there's just too much evidence. So no, I'm not Christian because there's too much evidence, way too much evidence that the Anunnaki, they tell us they created us. They tell us the asteroid belt before we even knew about it 200 years ago. They told us thousands of years ago. They told us the asteroid belt was called the firmament because it locked from one heaven to another, which is what they called it. They told us that they worked for 6 days, and Enki said, let this day be a day of rest. We've got all the tablets we need. We've got everything we need. We've got Enki telling Noah to build the ark and so on. We've got everything. So there's no point in being any religion, to be fair with you, because they were the gods in the Bible. That's their race name. Their race name, again, I show that as well, that their race name was gods. They're called gods before they even come to Earth, so they're not even pretending they're gods. They were gods. That's their race name. So, yeah, I'm not Christian. I'm not anything. I just go with the evidence. Joseph wrote, who created the Anunnaki? Chemicals. So if you look up what chemicals can create life under certain conditions, you'll see loads of names that I cannot pronounce. But also the Anunnaki in the Moorhen translation say that when they was looking at our predecessor, which was Neanderthal, when they was looking at that, they said, wow, that's probably what they look like. I'm paraphrasing. Look like when they, back in their history. In other words, they admit that they evolved. Hours wrote, oi oi, Jane Alfredo Jules. I'm not sure what's going on there. Maybe get a room, guys. Um, I'll do the filming. Sorry, my old job slipped back in there. Sorry, bad joke, or was it? T Tanya's wrote beautiful. I didn't know my camera was on, but thank you very much. I must switch that off. Um, Jules is me boss. Ah, right, okay. Well, history and coins. What are you up to as well? Shame on you. um, Alfreda's wrote, "But with the anomaly is very interesting. It is. It is the underneath of the. I don't know if you guys know this. This is fairly new knowledge. The underneath of the actual structure, according to the people that went there and actually went under and checked it, looked like it was burnt." Which is very interesting because if a craft came in, for example, to our atmosphere that lost its cloaking. Thank you, Luna Tuna. I hope I pronounced that right. Thank you. So yeah, I don't know if you guys know of the Baltic Sea anomaly. It basically looks like the Millennium Falcon, but it's so fascinating because not only has it now been told that it's got heat at the bottom of it, which suggests to me that if it did have anti-gravity technology, it lost it and came into our atmosphere and burnt up or burnt the bottom of it. But it also has a long line, basically a trowel, a skid mark that goes through a little mountain in the bottom of the ocean, smashes that through and then carries on and then finally settles. And also, not only that, cameras stop. You know, when they go down, their GPS stop when they're above it. So many different other things, and also the temperature's different. It should be 4 degrees, but it's 0 degrees around that actual thing. Thank you, Luna. So I will be doing a new long documentary. And thank you. You don't have to. I do this because I enjoy it, but it's really nice to know that people are awake listening. Thank you. Bless you. I don't recall seeing your name before, so thank you very much. Joe read that one. Joseph wrote, did Joshua create the Anunnaki? No, the Anunnaki created us. So there's a tablet called Enki and Nimna. Feel free to look that up, Enki and Nimna, and you'll see that the Anunnaki are talking about genetically creating a hominid species, or creating a species here from a hominid species. And they fail 6 times. So in one of the oldest languages ever, where people could just about read or write, they actually talk about genetically creating a new species and deciding whether or not it'll be good or bad. And then they try 6 times, and each one had deformities. We've got tablets telling us that. I mean, you put your mindset back that far back, that they're literally telling us that they're creating us in their image, in their likeness. So yeah, no, it would have been the other way around. So if Joshua is Jesus, then Marduk created Jesus. I've got a documentary. I've got thousands of documentaries, all with evidence. So feel free. That documentary is on YouTube. The one about who Jesus' real father is. Can't believe no one's debunked it. I guess they can't. Alfreda's wrote, so we all look the same to you, eh? I don't recall saying that. I was talking about the Anunnaki, but you have certainly got a unique look, Alfredo. You look like and forgive me for saying this, but I'm just saying it as I see it. Do you remember Errol Flynn? I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember Errol Flynn or Clark Gable. I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember them. Alfredo is a darker version, and I'm only, nothing bad. I'm just saying it is a darker version of those kind of characters. He's got very good charisma. It's a compliment, Alfredo. History and Coins, right? I do. In like Flynn, yeah. I think that was a film with James Coburn in like Flynn. So no, that wasn't. My God, my memory is pretty good on movies. Take me to a movie quiz, and we're walking home with a prize. But no, Errol Flynn, not the movie called In Like Flynn. Scrolling down, this is live. Maybe we should do a movie live one day. Nicole's wrote, "Our true history. What level of intelligence are you? Is it 100 or a billion?" No, she didn't write that. Sorry, She wrote, "Our true history. So I only joke about my intelligence because I was thick at school and I was the thickest kid for 16 years, and I can't read and I can't write, as you probably can tell. So I am thick. So any chance I get to try and big myself up, I do. So sorry, Nicole wrote, "Our true history. What level of intelligence do the Bigfoot that were left behind have? Same as us or higher?" Very interesting question. Very interesting question. Got number one in the class for that. So clearly, they have ability to understand things such as man with gun avoid. Back in the day when we didn't have guns, it was chase people and take them. So we know that they understood guns. Now, the people that said that they've been with them, spent time with them, have said that they telepathically communicate with them, and they're highly intelligent. So one of the reasons why they don't have weapons is because they know that it will lead to a couple of things. One is them probably killing each other, and two, there'll be a trace for us to find. Hang on a minute, someone's got a weapon that, whether it's a bow and arrow, whether it's a club, whatever it is. If they left it behind, then there's a trace that we've got for them, and of course they know that we will go out and hunt them. So yeah, if the stories is correct and that they are an alien race, that these ones were left behind from a prison ship that crashed here, then they're intelligent enough to have had space flight, in which case I would put them, more ahead of us than we are now. So it must be frustrating for them because obviously, they are probably way more intelligent than we give them credit for, and yet they're having to live an existence of downplaying the intelligence, really, just because of us. But you again roll back the clock with the Native Americans, etc., Native Indians, and they didn't have to hide their intelligence, and they would, there's so many stories from many Navajo, you name it. They've all got stories of Bigfoot, Sasquatch, hairy man, whatever you want to call him, from those different tribes. So back then they didn't have to hide their intelligence. They triangulate. They capture deers and stuff. They triangulate and capture deers. We would struggle. We'd have to bloody shoot a deer to be able to grab one without it running off. But they somehow, using a group of them, managed to corner them in somehow and grab them. Possibly because they're very fast as well. I mean, the stories of Bigfoot's crossing the road, literally it's like 2 or 3 strides across a freeway, according to, obviously running. And then there's stories of Bigfoot literally stepping over fences that we would, have to walk around and try and find a different way around it. So, maybe their speed is equivalent to, running, equivalent to a deer, maybe. But yeah, I would say they're more intelligent than us. Jim has wrote, "How about the World's Fair buildings? Doesn't seem to add up with mainstream narrative." Have tiny scratched on that. So it seems like the World's Fair had technologies, etc., that was a bit more ahead of its time, and then from my research, somehow one of the elites said, "Hey, whoa, get rid of that," and that's how it played out from my research, which makes a hell of a lot of sense. Because people, the people in power would lose money if some of those technologies from the State's Fair were put into the populace. Alfreda's right. Why did they stop using radium to heat homes? That was the Tarian tech. Don't get me started, Alfredo. Don't get me started. You're trying to wind me up, aren't you? Because obviously we don't. Alfredo, don't be good. AJ's wrote, what other famous sons did Marduk have? Okay, so the Egyptians. I tried to memorize it just the other day again. It was Tough Nut or something. Basically, the direct descendants off of Ra were his. I can never remember the bloody names of those. They come and go so quickly that those ones come and go so quickly. There's nothing. It's not like the famous story about Horus and Osiris and that lot. That's a famous story. Whereas the other ones, there's not a lot to talk about. So I can never remember the bloody names. But those ones anyway, the Egyptian ones. To be honest with you, that's all I can think of. That's all I can think of. So that's not to say he didn't have more kids, but you got to remember they're Anunnaki. So if he had a kid 10,000 years ago, right now the kid will be about 4. So it's not like we're going to get stories about them. If he had a kid with another Anunnaki, the kid will be 4. So it's not like we've got stories of Marduk's child, like Ninurta, for example. Went off and had battles with people and stuff like that. This would just be a kid. So even if Marduk had kids 100,000 years ago, they'd probably just be a teenager by now. So again, probably not worthy of writing down much about them. So I can kind of see why there's not that much. Obviously, the Egyptians wrote things down, so we've got that. But the reason why we've got those is because he bred with a human woman. That's why. That's why they're not 4 years old. That's why they grew up, died, and had their own children. Those children grew up and died. That's why we know that definitely that. I mean, we knew that he married a scribe anyway. It was a human woman, so that's the reason why we know about those. But if he had a child with another Anunnaki, they probably wouldn't write it down because it's just a baby that's young still. James wrote 9:30. Thank you, Jane. Alfredo wrote radium isn't dangerous, otherwise people wouldn't breathe it. Please tell me you was joking about the Tatarians, Alfredo. Genesis wrote, what was Marduk's purpose on creating Jesus being possibly a hybrid Anunnaki? Hopefully you heard me earlier because it kind of ties in with what I was talking about, where he may have had more than one child, and that's something I should look into, whether or not suddenly a new pharaoh or new king suddenly appeared around the same time as Jesus, because then it suggests to me that he was, Jesus was probably the runt of the litter, which makes a lot of sense. But I'd need to look into that. Cotswolds says, wrote, hi all, just got home. Welcome home. Hi honey, I'm home. Put the kettle on. Welcome. Armani has wrote, what do you think of Islam? Don't hate me. It's just my opinion. So I look at where it come from, and now this person had the ability to show this angel over 17 years to other people he didn't, that he was getting his stories from, supposedly. Most of the stories do tie in with the Anunnaki, basically Marduk, Yahweh, etc., and some of the older stories. So it seems to be a coalition, collection of real stories from the Anunnaki, and some extra bits added in to benefit men in that area. Forgive me for saying that, but that's just the way I see it. So when you've got one person telling other people, hey, I've been told by God, blah, 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 I'm a prophet, I could do that right now. Does it mean I'm telling the truth? No. Doesn't mean I'm telling the truth. Now, there are people out there, Frank Abagnale, for example, if you have the charisma and you act the part. Anyone know who Frank Abagnale is? Catch me if you can. If you have the charisma and you act the part, people won't question it. They'll believe what you tell them. David Koresh did that when he got people unalived in Waco. So throughout history, we have people. Mormons did the same thing. Oh, God told me well after all the other gods were here that he's a bit late to the party, but he's the real one. Yeah, right. So when you've got all of that kind of stuff, and we know that the Anunnaki were the gods, anything else, any religion is wrong. Let's be honest. So that's the way I see it. Thank you, Carmen. I just see everything black and white. Don't hate me. Diaz wrote me. I'm guessing that was when someone said, "Who cares?" Maybe. Armani's wrote, "What do you think?" I read that one. Sometimes people repeat things twice. AJ's wrote, "Anyone interested in helping us terraform a planet?" Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? Some idiot tried to debunk me and said that, and quoted the Emerald Tablets, which I don't quote for the Anunnaki. Quoted the Emerald Tablets and then said that I'm misleading people so that I can get funding to terraform a planet. I mean, literally, he said that, didn't he? Which planet? Let me know. Has it got my name on it? Is it Beetlejuice? Can I say that 3 times? I don't know. Oh, crazy. Crazy. This History and Coins wrote, the website address is hidden by the comments, boss, just to let you know. Yeah, I tried to move the screen up. On this phone, I can't. On the other one, I can. So on my phone, I can actually see it clearly. So maybe mine's a little bit bigger than yours. I can actually see it clearly, but I'm the host, so I don't know whether I can only see a small portion. But I apologise. But thanks for letting me know. So I will rewrite that if anyone's interested. All those subjects in the back, and all I get is Anunnaki question. Alfredo's wrote, our true history was. Thank you, History and Coins. Alfredo's wrote, that was a great post comparing the Sumerian tablets and the Bible. I'm not sure what one that was. I think it was. Oh, I know the one you mean. It was where it was basically Anunnaki gods versus the Bible, and then I just go through and list just some of the accidentally coincidences that the Bible has with the previous text that the Bible copied from that matches the Anunnaki. Yeah, it's a good one. I like that. You'd think religious people would have posted on there. I don't delete, I never. You've seen me argue for days and days and days. I'll never delete someone's comment if I think someone's arguing with me. So you'd think on that one where I'm literally pointing out lots of points where the Anunnaki were the gods in the Bible, you'd think Dan McLaren, you'd think Father Bennett, you'd think some of these people that have some knowledge of the Bible would come along and say, sorry, our true history, you're wrong. They don't. They leave me alone. And I think they leave me alone because I've already debunked. I'm not going to say their names, but the people I've just mentioned. Justin's wrote, laugh out loud. Hopefully it was something funny I said. Cotswolds wrote, saw Tower of Babel Patreon. Purpose, Marduk wanting to do something bigger than the one for Anu. Yeah, I didn't actually put down the reason why I think he built it, so I apologise for that. Yeah, I think it was just him, as throughout the whole of his history, wanting to be someone bigger than what he was. So yeah, I do think that his tower was deliberately being built as a status symbol because he had that mindset that he wanted to prove in some way or another that he should be listened to and that he was worthy. And unfortunately, it backfired on him twice. But it's interesting though. The Tower of Babel was real, as you probably listened to it. Absolutely, yeah. I didn't know about that. You probably heard me. So basically, I was doing this chat with ChatGDP about and I always catch it out. So don't think that I'm listening to ChatGDP. You'll hear me catch it out all the time. But something I didn't know in that chat was that there was a tablet that was found at the site of the Tower of Babel, which was originally called a Sky Tower, or translations was Sky Tower from the Moorhens. So that shocked the hell out of me. I was like, whoa, what? We've got a tablet there telling us that Marduk got this built, which is exactly what the Moorhens translation said. And there was a tablet found at the site of what we believe, which clearly is then the original Tower of Babel or Sky Tower, which would have been a ziggurat. For anyone's interested, it would have been a ziggurat similar to what's left is a ziggurat of a which is basically a palace type thing, but it would have been bigger than that, and the one in Ur is massive, so it was even bigger than that. Luna Tunas wrote, "Happy to see you." Thank you, Luna. I don't recall your name. Forgive me. I might have. But thank you. It's really nice. Cotswolds wrote, "Said to reach the heavens, space. Surely not possible." No, yeah, it was. Yeah, I think that was more of a Bible version of it. Yeah, I mean, if you look at the footprint and you look at how a ziggurat was built, then yeah, it wouldn't go up 40 odd or 80 miles to heaven. So no, it was just the biggest one, I think, and that's the Bible saying that part. And as you know, the Bible gets things wrong. Cotswolds wrote, "And baked bricks as opposed to stone. Why not enough stone?" Yeah, so if you go by the Moorhens translations, Marduk wanted to build it out of huge blocks, but there was none around. So Babylon didn't have any sort of sandstone or limestone or anything that could have been built. Sandstone's crap. Forget what I just said about sandstone. Sandstone would dissolve, but limestone or any of the other, basalt or anything like that, there was nothing around. So he taught them how to build using baked bricks, which literally is what Moorhens say, and literally, as you heard in that tablet that's been found where the Sky Tower, the Tower of Babel was, it literally tells us that it was baked bricks, and they still have baked bricks there. I think they said so, showing the sort of the base of it, which is why we know the size of it. Alfreda's wrote, they say that the Baltic Sea anomaly gives off a force field. Not a force field, because there was divers that actually tried to use a hammer and chisel to try and take a sample off, but couldn't, which was really weird because they're underwater, and you think hammer and chisel underwater is probably not the best way of trying to hit something, because you're going to have friction with the water. But they tried, but couldn't even chip off a bit of it, so they couldn't take that. So yeah, you should see my new video is going to be amazing. But not a force field, no. But there is, the temperature difference, and there is the fact that equipment does turn off. Cameras, GPS, all sorts of stuff turn off when you're near that area. Even they had a ROV, underwater robot, and that's switched off when it got near it as well. So it's clearly letting off some electrical charge in some way to disable power. Luna has wrote, "It's been a minute. Algorithms do what they do." Not sure what that was referring to, but thank you. Trico has wrote, "How old's the Earth?" So if you go by the mainstream version, which they base off of the same time that the asteroid belt, which funny enough is exactly the same time, because the asteroid belt is part of Earth, as from the tablets in the British Museum called the Unknown Release. Anyway, so basically it's 4.6 billion years old. Now other planets were older, because technically Earth was here 4.6 billion years ago, but Tiamat was here before that. I don't know how long. It could have been, a billion years, could have been a million years, could have been 10,000 years. It doesn't give us a date on how long Tiamat's here, but according to mainstream, based off of rocks, etc., they estimate that it's 4.6 billion years old. Now you could argue, well, is that 4.6 billion years old as Tiamat, or is that 4.6 billion years old as Earth in the position that it's in now? Don't know. Can't really say for sure, because they were one of the same. So although mainstream agree Earth was smashed into, they call it a planet called Theia instead of Nibiru, which is what it actually really was, because mainstream won't ever tell us that it was Nibiru, because that means the ancient tablets are correct, which we know they were anyway. Scrolling down, Genexus wrote, could Earth's protection from the Council be an agreement for humans not to further advance in nuclear tech? No, because we have tried. So we've been stopped, as you know, many times from using nukes. So they obviously didn't tell us not to create nukes. Otherwise, they could have just told us not to, and we wouldn't have built them. So, no, I would say no to that. And Israel, would Marduk still use Heed scribes or have any use for humans? Interesting question. I like that. Go number 3 in the class for that. So technically now, probably not. I mean, the scribes were, writing down for things for posterity, for future generations to understand. But we're now that future generation, so I can't see him using scribes anymore at all. He's probably, no, I can't see that. No. No, it's a good question, but I can't see any benefit for that anymore. Ellie's wrote, those 2 actors were very handsome. I like Errol Flynn. Yeah, they were I liked Errol Flynn in Robin Hood back in the day. But yeah, they were classed as handsome. Not my type. I'm not into men, but they were classed as handsome actors. Alfreda's wrote, the comment was more directed to the fact that Errol Flynn was notorious ladies' man. Yes, I see where you're going with that. Yes. Yeah, he was, wasn't he? And the funny thing is, what was his name? Clark Gable was apparently gay, if I'm not mistaken. Ghosted has wrote, what is the prehistory of the Norse gods' origins prior to the Viking Age? Thank you, History and Coins. You don't have to, History and Coins. Sorry, going back to Ghosted. What is the prehistory of the Norse gods? So, I have done a video on Norse gods. If anyone's interested in seeing thousands of documentaries with evidence covering all the things in the background, just visit my website, ourtruehistory.co.uk. So, the Norse gods... So basically, the way it worked, I'm just going to be brief, but the way it worked was Freya and Freya, I can never pronounce their names, the twins, male and female, they were Inanna and Utu from the Sumerians, from the Anunnaki. Inanna and Utu, they were the older gods, the older Norse gods. If you know anything about Norse, you'll know that there was 2 older ones, and they were the twins, and that was Inanna and Utu. The description of Odin, the old Odin, was Enki, so he's the one that fashioned people and created life, blah blah blah. And then there was a young Odin, who was a Gigi. So basically, he went over there to Scandinavia. So the 2 elder twins went over to Scandinavia and took with them a Gigi. So that's where we get Odin, that's where we get Loki and all those kind of characters. They were just younger Anunnaki, which is why you can't match them with any other Anunnaki, because they would have been some of the Gigis. Now slightly grown up a little bit more than what they were, but that's who they were. Which is why those gods happen to have blonde hair, blue eyes, blah blah blah. Some of them had red hair. We know. I believe we did. I think I've found enough evidence for my own personal benefit, to say that some of the Anunnaki, possibly even Marduk, may have had red hair. So that's all it was, really. It's just some of the Anunnakis going over to Scandinavia, and probably took many humans with them. And started their own little thing over there. Scrolling down, Justin has wrote, "Are the Anunnaki from Planet X? Can't spell them that real name, and are they still here?" Yes, they're from a planet called Nibiru or Nibiru, depends on who translates it. And NASA called it originally. NASA called it Planet X, but now they changed the name for Planet X to mean something that they're unaware of, a planet out there somewhere that they're unaware of, as opposed to the Planet X, Nibiru. So yes, and they're still here, and they're still on their planet as well. So the ones that stayed here stayed here. The ones that never even came to Earth are still on their planet. Their planet's due round between Jupiter and Mars, somewhere between 500 and 700 years from my calculations. Mimo has wrote, "You sound like John Wedger." I don't know who John Wedger is. I'm so sorry. Sorry. Scrolling down. People chatting to each other. History and Coins wrote, "Are Bigfoot as tall as the Anunnaki?" So if you go by the carvings of the Anunnaki, for example, Irving Finkel was talking about. This is funny. This makes me laugh. Irving Finkel in a video I was just watching this morning was talking about Gilgamesh, and he points to the carving of Gilgamesh holding a lion, and he says, "Look, Gilgamesh is holding a baby lion." Because if he said he's holding a full-sized lion, that means the size of Gilgamesh would have been 16.5 foot. Gilgamesh's description is 16.5 foot, but Irving Finkel, the head curator of the British Museum, daren't say that. So he says he's holding a baby lion instead of saying he's holding a full-size lion and he's freaking 16.5 foot. So if you look at everything from the Anunnaki, the elder ones seem to be about 20 foot from all the carvings. If you just go by the carvings alone, they're about 20 foot. And I'm on about Greek and Roman gods as well. They're about 20 foot tall. So the Bigfoots, the tallest I've really ever heard of is about 10, possibly 11 foot. So not even in the same range as the Anunnaki. If you believe. Now, also the Anunnaki, called us little people. Could 8 foot, if they were 8 foot, would they have called us little people? Or close. If they were 20 foot, would they call us little people? Absolutely. So, the doors of 20 foot. The Vatican doors are 20 foot. The doors in Jordan, the doors on the temples, all the doors were 20 foot, 23 foot, 24 foot. So everything leads me to believe that the Anunnaki were about 20 odd foot tall, whereas Bigfoots are not that tall. I've never heard anyone say that they were that tall. Ellie wrote, "Love the washing machine noise in the background." The funny thing is, I think it's bloody well broke. It should have been a half-hour cycle, and it just keeps going and going. So I'm going to go and switch that off. You're right. Thank you for that. And it's certainly gone half hour. So freaking thing's broke. So let me just turn that off. And now I've got to do the stop. This is where my intelligence comes in. I can work a washing machine. Right. Now I'm doing spin and pump out. You filthy animal. Keep the change. Sorry, let me go back to my hobbit hole. I brought my books with me today because I thought, I'll put all these different things in the background. Someone's going to be asking all sorts of questions, but not so much. Stevens wrote, "Why do you think there is gargoyles on churches? Why not angels?" Well, angels were messengers. So that's all they were. They were just messengers on behalf of the Anunnaki flying craft. We're the ones way, way later added wings to the bloody images of angels. Ridiculous. Why do I think there's gargoyles? It's a very good question. I haven't looked into it. It's a very good question. Very good question, Stephen. Got number 1 in the class for that. Yeah, that's something I should look into. It really is, because old buildings, ancient buildings didn't really have any statues on them. You know, like well, I say that, we've got, Ramses II and all this kind of, so they did have statues, but not gargoyles. I don't think in ancient history, I can't think of any buildings that had small. I can think of Mesoamerica having small carvings of faces, many different types of faces, but not necessarily gargoyles. So I'd like to, yeah. I mean, I don't know when the gargoyles first started appearing, and for what reason. I don't know. It's a good question. I've not looked into it, so I apologise, Stephen. I can't answer that, but it's a very good question. Something I should look into. So I'll add that if I can remember to my list of deep dives. Bigham has wrote Inky. It's ENKI. Just to help you out, just in case you needed to look it up. Sunshine's wrote, why do we age so much faster than they do? Because their planet has it. Their planet's year is 3,600 of our years. So for 1 year of theirs, we've gone round 3,600 times. So when they come to Earth, 1 year for them is 3,600 years for us. So a human will be born and die within 4 or 5 months of their life. We've grown up and died 3 or 4 months of their life. So it's a bit like, as I always bring up, the old flies and gnats. They live for about 2 weeks. So they would look at us as immortal. They'd tell their generations down, look, they're still living. So it's once you realise that, that animals can die quicker than us, and obviously, therefore, ergo, other species can live longer than us. So we're just a gnat in the big scheme of things compared to the Anunnaki. That's why they called themselves immortal. They called us mortal. In the Bible, it talks about immortal God. I mean, how egotistical must an almighty being that's created absolutely everything? Let's pretend that the Bible's correct. How egotistical must he be to throw in the fact that he's immortal? Yeah, okay, we got it. You built the freaking universe. Of course, no worries. What's your problem? But of course, it's talking about the Anunnaki because the Bible talks about the Anunnaki because that's their race named gods. So that's the reason why the gods in the Bible mention immortal, because they called themselves immortal. Oleg has wrote, hello, Oleg. Nice of you to join. Justin's wrote, why don't they come back, or did they never leave? They never left. Marduk spent 440,000 years trying to be somebody. He finally gets it 2 years ago in his time. There is no way he's leaving. no way. 440,000 odd years, finally gets to become the ruler of Earth. And he's here for 2 years, and then he buggers off for no reason whatsoever. No, he's here. In fact, he's on the dollar bill. If you know how to read the dollar bill, go to my website. If you don't know how to thank you, Snuggles, bless you. If you don't know how to read the dollar bill and understand Sumerian, etc., watch my documentary on my website called "Who's Running the Planet." Ideally, watch the Vatican video first that I've done, so you can get an understand who got that built and why, and then watch the dollar bill one. Thousands of documentaries. If anyone's interested, ourtruehistory.co.uk, you'll have all the evidence you'll need of everything that I'm waffling on about. History and Coins wrote, be aware the host is 20 minutes behind on the questions. Thank you. Well written. Samantha's wrote, how are you live on here and Patreon at the same time? How are you live on here and Patreon at the same time? I shouldn't be on Patreon. I've not switched Patreon on. I've not even logged into Patreon. I don't know how I'm live on Patreon. I'm just looking on my other phone now. You've confused me. I'm not even signed in on this phone, so I don't know what you mean. Sorry. It's confusing me. My brain cannot compute. Ian has wrote, I believe something like a ghost is the best thing and only thing that I know is true. I not gods. See again. Sorry, and I don't mean to sound rude, but it seems like you're keeping your mind that there's an almighty God or almighty gods. You're once you break the mold, once you break that rose tinted glasses and realize that there is a race called gods. It's as simple as that. Forget the creating the universe, all that baloney. They never said they did that. There is a race called gods. We know they're called gods. I've proven they're called gods. I've got so many tablets where I can prove they were called gods. I point to them all the time. Look up Kingship of Heaven. They were called gods before they even come to Earth. So now that you've got that whole woo-woo out your head, do you understand that there could be a race, which there is, that has the name gods as their race name? We're called humans. They're called gods. Not a problem. Not a problem at all. So once you break that down, then when you think, okay, maybe there is gods, and maybe that's their race name, which it is. So now when you look at things, look at it. Tell you what, Ian, go to my website. You won't bother. I don't mean to sound rude. It's just no one bothers. Go to my website, scroll down on the home page to where it says click here. Watch the documentary on that. I made it. And I show evidence. It's hours and hours long. You only need 10 minutes. Don't worry. You don't have to watch it all. And you'll see that they were gods. They were the gods in the Bible, and they were real, and they created us, and they did everything that they said in the Bible that they say they did. So once you see that, then you can then say, okay, there is gods, but it's not that woo-woo, magical, mystical, created everything, and then wanted to wipe us out, but then suddenly decided not to wipe us out and tells Noah. You'll see all the evidence you'll ever need in that documentary. Samantha wrote, I can't split into to listen to both. I have no idea how I'm on Patreon at the same time. My brain can't comprehend that. I don't know what's going on. Unless a video's just dropped. Maybe that's what's happened. Maybe a video's just dropped. So I have, on my Patreon page, I have loads and loads of documentaries. Ones that I can't put on YouTube because obviously, the subject matters and so on. History and Coins, I'll check on my computer, boss. Oh, thank you, History and Coins. Bless you. So, yeah, anyway. Dylan's wrote, is Ishtar Mother May? Possibly. It's possible. I can't say for sure. It's possible. That's all I can really say. There is some suggestions that she is, but I haven't found the smoking gun, so I can't say yes. But the logic's there, basically, from my perspective. Millie's wrote, I'm sitting here as a 55-year-old RH negative Mormon who questions everything, loving your lives. Thank you, Kerry. I just read that. Thank you. You're a Mormon. Sorry to bring up the old Mormons. So my struggle is when we had, I think there was, so you got to remember, every Anunnaki was called God. That's their race name. But then we had the Norse gods. We have Greek gods. We have Roman gods. We have Babylonian gods. We have Assyrian gods. We have they're all the same Anunnaki. We have Indian gods. They're all the same Anunnaki. And then roll on thousands and thousands of years later, some guy says that he was told that the real God is the one that's talking to him, and everyone should listen to him and forget all the other gods. The problem I have with that is, how the hell, if God only just appeared to the Mormon God, how the hell did people suddenly around the world come up with the idea of God? No one comes up with the idea of, let's pretend someone created us. Let's build buildings for them. Let's talk about asteroid belts that we can't even see, but let's pretend that these gods mentioned it, and they, let's pretend that these gods mentioned a planet called Tiamat that got broke up and became asteroid belt. Basically, you get what I'm trying to say. No one in their right mind makes up the word God and worships something for no reason whatsoever. No one does that. Unless they're cuckoo, but not us whole civilization. Someone would have said to him, snap out of it. So when you have the Mormons, which came along way later, and then turns around that all the other gods are wrong, even though we have evidence that they were here, etc. And he's the only one that gets told, and then goes around and tells, and then eventually one of his mates, if you know the story, one of his mates supposedly also gets told at the same time. I'm backing my mate up. God spoke to me as well. Yeah, forget all the other gods that predate us. That everyone just made up gods back then for no reason whatsoever. Do you see my point? The logic is just obviously completely flawed. Sorry. Samantha wrote, the host really is God. He's in two places at once. I can only assume it's another one of my videos, because as I was saying on my Patreon, I've started I shall finish with the beeps in the background. On my Patreon, I do have videos dropping, almost daily sometimes, new ones. So, constantly being added to. So I'm wondering if something just dropped tonight, and you're maybe hearing that. Andy, have you got any recent alien UFO gossip from your research or whistleblowers? I haven't, because at the moment, I'm, people like yourself, Andy, and it's you, bugger, forcing me to go back and look at things like the Baltic Sea anomaly and stuff like that. So when I do my research, everything else goes out the window. I literally focus 100% on whatever I'm researching. So no, I haven't been looking around in more modern times. The wonderful Donna, who I know very, very well, has wrote, do you think there is any connection between the Bermuda Triangle and the Anunnaki tech underwater? It's a very good question, Donna. I should put you in number one, but that would be favoritism. So go in number one. Well done. And that's not because of who she is. So is there any connection between Bermuda Triangle and the Anunnaki? Well, on the surface, I'd say no. The only thing I could suggest is that pyramid that they did put in the newspapers, it wasn't just a TikTok phenomena. This is going back years. It was actually in the newspaper. I remember seeing it in the newspaper. It was a big thing. And it actually had, I think, 2 photographs of a pyramid shape in the bottom of the Bermuda Triangle. Now, if we look at the Anunnaki, we know they built the pyramids. No one else was here. They built them. They built the ziggurats. They built. Ningazida tells us, or Thoth tells us, he built a pyramid. And all the places, that the Anunnaki were, no one could have built. No humans could have built the pyramids. The Chinese pyramid, the Bosnian pyramid, they're massive, absolutely massive. And not just those places, but anyway. So if that pyramid is at the bottom of the ocean, I haven't actually done a depth of the bottom of the middle of the thingy. Let me just do that now. 1 second. Ladies and gentlemen, you're going to hear this now live. What is the depth to the bottom of the middle of the Bermuda Triangle? Just give me the figure, don't waffle on.
The depth to the bottom of the Bermuda Triangle can reach around 8,000 meters.
What's that in feet?
8,000 meters is about 26,247 feet.
Okay, so if we go with the Great Flood flooding it over, and therefore it was built prior to the flood, that is too big. That's too deep. The flood wouldn't have been that deep. That wouldn't have raised that sea level that high. So then you got to ask yourself, well, okay, did the Anunnaki have the ability to go underwater? Yes, they did. They had what they called fish suits. So we know that they could swim. In fact, they even had swimming pools. I only found that out yesterday or this morning from Irvin Finkel when I was listening to him. So could they have built underwater a pyramid to help whatever it was, the ley lines, etc., around the world? Could that have and is the water conducting it? Like if you have electricity and water, it can, spread. So could it be a real pyramid built by the Anunnaki to help whatever it is that they were doing with all these pyramids around the world? And because the water is creating more energy than it should, is that what's causing the planes and boats to have malfunctioning electrical equipment? Possibly. So all I can say is there is a possible connection if that pyramid is genuine at the bottom of the Bermuda Triangle that was mentioned in the newspaper many, many years back. So a good question. Can't answer it 100%, but if that pyramid was correct, sadly no one's gone back there or that we're aware of. So, you'd think they'd have gone back there. It was in the newspaper. You'd think someone would have said, let's go back there. Like the Baltic Sea anomaly, these guys want to go back there big time. But the people that saw the pyramid hasn't gone back there. So you got to think, have they been warned off? Millage wrote, non-practicing Mormon, by the way. No worries at all. No worries. Yeah, I'm just, me, if you've listened to me, you know that I'm very logical and I sort of look at things very black and white. So forgive me if it upsets you in any way. Cotswolds wrote, is there any evidence of Norse Anunnaki buildings? It's a very good question, actually. You got number 2 in the class for that. It's an interesting question. So when you look at the Norse stories, we've got a few steles kicking around, which are basically large plates with some Norse writing on them. So we've got a few of those, but buildings, I don't think we've got any ancient buildings that belong to the gods or Norse gods, which would have been the Anunnaki. I don't recall ever coming across that in my research. That's not to say there isn't, but I haven't come across it. And I did look for buildings, but I never, that's why I know about some of the sort of marker stones or steles. So I've never come across anything. So there's very, very little on the Norse. Most of it's written about by Snorri, which came, in the Poetic Edda, which came a long way later. So I can't answer that, but I don't think so. I don't think so. So it's a good question. I don't think there is. Now, whether or not there was and it's got destroyed, especially having, if they buggered off and Vikings got attacked by Romans or someone else, then, it could have totally destroyed the building. So hard to say, but yeah, interesting question. Dylan's wrote Ishtar Mother Mary. I read that one. Sometimes people write things twice. Samantha's wrote, night everyone sleep well. Oh, bless you, Samantha. Thank you for even coming on. This is live. I read every single question out. Justin's wrote, just subscribe to YouTube. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Hopefully you'll find many videos there. So I do put my TikTok ones on there as well as other videos. That's not all my videos. Some of them or a lot of them I put on Patreon. It's only a couple of pounds. I'm not doing it for money. I lose money. But I do it because some of them, if I put them on YouTube, certain demographics will be very upset with me doing what I do, pointing out evidence in that way. So, but you'll see as you watch my YouTube videos, you'll see me point to what videos are on the Patreon page. But as I say, it's only a couple of quid, so it's not going to hopefully break anyone's bank. I don't do it for money. Otherwise, I would have charged more than a couple of quid. Justin's wrote 5:02 p.m. in Cleveland, Ohio. Okay, yeah, so it's 22:28 here at the moment, 10:28. Thank you for listening in, Justin. Zach has wrote, I agree. I'm not sure what it was. I'm slightly behind, but thank you, Zach. And then Zach's wrote, can't forget the Matrix. We are in a simulation run by the reptilians. I can't agree with that. Sorry. Could you, I know you don't follow me. Could you show me any evidence that you've got whatsoever of that? Now, this is where I come across rude. You won't have any evidence whatsoever. You'll point to birds being stuck in the sky, which we know is caused by a phenomena where there's a tube that goes up, and at the top of it is where things get stuck. So we know that we've got the LiDAR of that. So any other evidence whatsoever that we're in a matrix, please, run by the reptilians. And if you point me to a YouTuber, please don't do that, because I don't point you to YouTubers. I point you to my videos, but I also tell you where the evidence is at the same time. And I say you can go and watch my videos because it covers way more than what I'm even telling you here. Lucas wrote, do you know the Illuminati? No, I know. Do you know the Muffin Man? No, I don't know any Illuminati people whatsoever. I know of the, if you're saying, do I know of the Illuminati? Absolutely. If you're saying, do I know any Illuminati? No. Dylan wrote something again. Zach has wrote, the simulation is run by a plugged into your pineal gland. Could you show me the evidence of that, Zach? I'm only asking because he doesn't follow me, and of course we know he's making up stuff. People that seem to not follow me do make up a lot more stuff than the people that follow me. I guess they realise that I will pull them out on it. Lucas wrote, do you know MK Ultra? I don't know anyone that was in MK Ultra, but I certainly know MK Ultra, yes. I've been, just to give you some background, Luke, because you don't follow me, I've been doing this 40 years. I'm the foremost expert. And then you're going to probably say, no, he's not. Listen to me for 5 minutes, you'll realise. Kai Shara has wrote, greetings. Greetings, Kai Shara. Hopefully, or Ki Shara. I don't know how you would pronounce that, so forgive me. Zach has wrote, everything exists past the ice wall. Again, zero evidence of any ice wall behind Australia, Scotland, anywhere other than the North and South Pole, which is just basically ice. So unfortunately, Zach, like I said, people that don't follow me just make up a hell of a lot of crap and believe it, which is really sad. I don't know how they do that. There is no ice wall. And you'll say, but Admiral Byrd says there was. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. But a TikToker says there's an ice wall. Yeah, there you go. Go follow them then. Bye. Armoni's right. Where do you get your sources from? I'd like to know. So if you watch any of my videos, I point to the evidence. So it's not like I'm doing what other researchers, so-called researchers, like Billy Carson, where he says in the tablets. I show you the tablets. I name the tablets. I tell you where they are. I tell you where you can get the translations from. So anything you need to do is when you just watch my video, I don't show my face. I show the evidence. That's the difference. So feel free to pick a video, watch it, and you'll see all the evidence you'll ever need. Ellie's wrote, will we ever discover what the Vatican have in their vaults? No. Is a good question. Go number 3 in the class for that. No, there's no way they will let us anywhere near it. Now, I've heard stories from people that are very high up in the Vatican that have to get permission to even go down into the vaults, total clearance and everything else. There was a story of someone that was allowed to go down, got permission, and went to a particular part which he shouldn't have went to, started to look there, and all hell broke loose. He got yanked out of there so fast it made his head spin. So no, I don't think we're ever going to find out what's in there. I think the stuff that I waffle on about, I think is pretty much the stuff that's in there, all the evidence that we need, plus more. Giant skeletons and all sorts of things. Kishara's right, I have some research for you to factor in. More than happy to learn. That's what I'm here to do. I know people seem to think that I, am egotistical and I know everything. I don't. I'm here to learn. But I don't want to learn from people that say, that we're run by reptilians because of the Matrix and the ice wall. I don't want to listen to those people because there is zero evidence of that and it's just made up rubbish. And we all know that. In fact, History and Coins is asked where the evidence of the ice wall is to Zach. Let's see what he says. Well done, History and Coins. Zach had replied, but to someone else, think outside of the box. You don't think how the Matrix wants you to think you're through programs. So basically, Zach's answer is because whatever you think is because of the Matrix, therefore it's the Matrix, because whatever you're thinking is because of the Matrix. That's kind of his argument. Kerry's asked for the evidence of the ice wall. Snuggles was wrote, evening. Hi, Snuggles. Evening to you too. It's pretty much night now. Anne-Marie has wrote, gargoyles are supposed to protect those inside. Yeah, I need to do a deep dive on that. Thank you. Yeah, no, you might be right. I kind of remember hearing that somewhere, but I wonder if it's similar to the magic stones, magic pillars in Egypt, in tombs, where they're supposed to guard the dead body. Lucas wrote Zionist. I do like more than just one word. Cotswolds wrote, weren't gargles from, and then nothing's there. Zach has replied to Kerry about maps older than 1970, maps since World War One, older show more land, and that we are around by Antarctica. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. You're going to say, but it does. No, it doesn't. You're going to say, but the Perry Reese map. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. You're going to say, but look, there's an edge. They drew a circle around the map. Yes, they drew a circle around the map. There you go. That's the ice wall behind Australia and Scotland. Even though no one's ever bumped into it, ever. No, if you actually know how to read maps, you'll understand that the Anunnaki used to put circles around the edges of or around the map. So there's a map, for example, called the World Map in the British Museum. Zach's thinking, oh no, he's going to debunk me, isn't he? Sorry, Zach. So there's a world map, which is called the World Map, even though it's actually showing the Middle East. In fact, it's showing the Middle East and Mount Ararat. In fact, that map is actually showing where the the Noah's Ark actually landed on Mount Ararat. And the Anunnaki used to put a ring around the outside of the map, regardless of where it is. So it wasn't the whole planet, but they still put a ring around it. So you need to learn how to read stuff before you waffle on. Sorry, I don't mean to sound rude, Zach, but let's be honest, I'm right and you're wrong. Name one person, Zach, that's bumped into the ice wall. Name one. Anywhere other than the North and South Pole. And I've said this right at the beginning. People will say, "Oh, but it's in Antarctica." Well, then how can it be the whole ice wall around the planet if it's in Antarctica? Oh, but because YouTube said so, and I don't know how to use my brain. Shh, Zach. It's bedtime for you, Zach. Anne Marie's wrote to protect the building and the people inside. Thank you for that again. Cotswolds weren't gargoyles from European Gothic churches originally. I would need to look into it. Yeah, I don't know. So you might be right. Snuggles wrote, I think I was medieval times for gargoyle. We ward off evil. Yeah, you could be right. I need to look into it. So thank you for that, guys. Carmen's wrote, why did they create other species? Was it for us or for them? You mean like the hydras and the centaurs and the minotaurs and the so if you go by the Moorhen translations, before they even created us, Enki was already manipulating animals because he showed what's her name? Nimna. He showed Nimna animals and said, what do you think of these? And she goes, the front half is one animal and the back half is another. So he's tinkering. He was a fashioner. In fact, he was actually called the fashioner. So he was tinkering. Whether or not he was tinkering to try and get a smarter species, a better species, or what, I don't know. But he was certainly tinkering. So yeah, good question. Zach has wrote to History and Coins. Don't use Google, use Deep Web, DuckDuckGo, not Dark Deep. So Zach, name one person that's bumped into the ice wall anywhere other than the North and South Pole, which is where, funny enough, ice is. So if you could name one person, please, just one, that's come across it behind anywhere other than the two poles. Just one person. You do realise, Zach, that more people have seen mermaids than they have the ice wall. But there is an ice wall. I've seen videos of it in Antarctica. No, that's just ice in Antarctica. What part of that don't you grasp? I don't quite get how people's brains work. It's crazy. Nicholas wrote, I am Ra. I am American. Hi, Ryan. Nice of you to join. You don't follow me, so I'm guessing you're pretending that you're rather God. Let me go to questions. Ellie's right. What race are the strange, tall, and short species in the Vatican ceremonies? To be honest, I've never seen a Vatican ceremony, so I can't answer that. Sorry, Ellie, that's a shame. It sounds like a really good question. I've never seen a Vatican ceremony. That's interesting. It makes me want to go and look now. Ellie's right. My husband studied what you have studied. He was before his time. He passed away, but opened my mind. Brilliant. It's really nice to know that there's people out there. It's a shame. Sorry to hear that. But he sounded like a very good guy, someone that was interested and would learn. Cotswold wrote, pleased to see the numbers have jumped up from 50. Yeah, I don't know whether that's a new thing or whether it's because History and Coins did say that she asked again for them to unblock me. Zach has wrote, yes, Egyptian goddess created gods. No. No. The Sumerian gods come before the Egyptian gods. So there is no way that the Egyptian goddess could create gods. You got to remember that's flawed already, because you're saying the Egyptian goddess created gods. Then technically she wouldn't be a god or even a goddess, because to be a god she would have had to been created by herself. And it doesn't make sense. Oh, Zach, you do make up some crap, don't you? Gods. Zach wrote, gods that exist today to save you from the Matrix. Facts. Writing fact at the end of something doesn't make it true. I'm a genius. Fact. Oh no, that actually is probably true. Sorry, Zach. No, you just made that crap up. Gods today exist to save you from the Matrix. I mean, what a love partner. Sorry, that's just that's up there with me doing this so I can terraform another planet. That's pretty bad, Zach. Come on. How old are you, Zach? Seriously? Seriously, because I can't grasp that anyone would have that. Lucas wrote 5G controlled towers, radiation. Not quite sure where you're going with that. Suddenly sort of changed the subject there. You don't follow me, so I'm not quite sure why you. Zach has wrote, God means a higher up being, and you are higher up being if you have awareness. No, it doesn't, Zach. So the Anunnaki were called gods. That's their race name. We know that they were called gods before they even come to Earth. Look at the tablet called Kingship of Heaven. So Zach, stop making up stuff. Moderators, once we get someone that makes up a hell of a lot of crap, I'm just wasting my time really on them. Feel free to you know what to do, unless you enjoy playing with them, unless you enjoy me playing with them, toying with them, because I obviously have no idea what they're talking about. Zach has wrote, you are 3D, 4D and 5D. How dare you call me 3D and 4D and 5D? Thank you, Kerry, bless you. I'm not 5D. I'm probably 4.5, but I'm not a 5D. Zach has wrote, search YouTube. Everything's on YouTube. Go to YouTube, because that's where I learn my knowledge from, and my knowledge is amazing because I get it from YouTube. And those people on YouTube don't show evidence, but I trust them because they are on YouTube. Nice one, Zach. Mr. Tears wrote, so who created the aliens, the first creator? Stop thinking in the way that someone has to be created. Sorry, I know it sounds rude. Get that out of your head, that there has to be a creator, because obviously if there was a creator, then who created the creator? And who created the creator that created the creator? So get that out of your head. The Anunnaki do not talk about them creating the universe. Their race name was gods. They come here. They did everything that the Bible tells us they did. They created us. They let 7 days, seventh day be a day of rest. And we've got all of the things we need. So when you say who created the aliens, chemicals. Look up what chemicals require under the right conditions to create a single-celled organism, and you'll find your answer. Sorry, I don't mean to sound rude. Suze wrote, was your washing machine sounds as bad as mine? Sorry about that. Yeah, bloody thing. It kept going. Sorry, Sue. How are you, Sue? Day has wrote, grateful for your information and teachings. Oh, that's very nice of you. Thank you. Nicholas has wrote, Anunnaki were destroyed by me. You see what I'm on about, ladies and gentlemen. The numptiness that's out there is just ridiculous. We have de-evolved. I'm not even going to read Zach's anymore. Zach just makes up a lot of crap. Eddie's wrote, Brigham Young, the Norman, was portrayed by my favourite actor, Vincent Price. I don't know who Brigham Young, the Norman. I'm guessing Normans in Normandy. Normans, like the ancient race. I'm guessing. Sorry, Ellie, you got me on that one. Oh, sorry. Underneath, then you wrote Mormon, not Norman. Okay, so you can see why I was confused. Mormon, yeah. Sorry, Kerry. Yeah, underneath she wrote Mormon. Yeah, you can see why I was confused to hell. Right. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I see it now. So Vincent Price played Brigham Young. Right. The Mormon. Right. I got it. Sue's wrote sounds interesting. Any more on that? I'm behind on the questions now. I don't know what I was talking about at that point. I'm so sorry. I wouldn't know where I was with that. Nicholas has wrote, please block me. I'm a bit of a numpty. My mother won't let me talk to anyone, and I keep trying to say stupid things like I make the pyramids. No worries at all, Nicholas. Not your fault that you're missing some bits and pieces. The primordial soup skipped you by, I'm guessing. Mo Magic's wrote, pyramids equal mass mind control. Could you show me? I bet you don't follow me. No, of course they don't. People that make up crap don't follow me. Mo, could you do us a favour and show us the evidence of that? Would you mind? You must have evidence, because you wouldn't have said it. You would have said, I believe. Mo's thinking, oh crap, I've just been called out. Yeah, Mo, you've been called out, mate. Just stop making up crap. So we're getting to that time of night where people make up a lot of crap. Cotswolds wrote, interested in underwater stuff. I'm guessing Roman concrete came from the Anunnaki. We still can't copy it. Yeah, I've heard that about the concrete. They use certain things, and of course, you know, people say, oh, the Anunnaki didn't use mortar in any shape or form, but they did. There is buildings that actually had mortar, and there is carvings of or tablets talking about the Anunnaki, talking about buildings. Didn't say which particular building, but it mentioned the name of some type of mortar. So yes, the Anunnaki did have mortar. So yes, they could have taught, Constantine or one of the Romans how to build something strong. I mean, you got to remember the Vatican. If you watch my video, I do believe with all the evidence that it points to Marduk got that Vatican built. So maybe Marduk gave him a little bit of helping hand with that. Crag has wrote, hi there from Leeds. Hi Crag, nice of you to join. I remember your name from the other day. Thank you for coming back. Crag has wrote, thoughts on Skinwalker Ranch. So I was obviously aware of Skinwalker Ranch way before the TV show. But long story short, yes, the people that owned it, even going back to the Native Americans that were there, they didn't make these stories up for a bit of a giggle. They didn't make them up for TikTok. These stories were passed down, including the families. They sold up because of the phenomena. They didn't want to sell. So, and it's not just Skinwalker Ranch. There's a few other ranches that have these kind of phenomena. So, why do they have the phenomena? Obviously, we're all watching Skinwalker Ranch, hoping that we can get some sort of answer. But there does seem to be a phenomena there now. So apparently, there was a meteorite that crashed millions of years ago in that place, which is why there's a mesa there. which can possibly create a parabolic, especially if it's near a ley line, for example, or some sort of energy, or the meteorite itself may be made of a metal alloy of some description. It could have been part of a planet. We sit there and think, well, how can a meteorite be metal? But it could have been part of a planet that got smashed up and then finally found its way here and smashed onto Earth, so it could still be metal. So yeah, I mean the phenomena that's been mentioned there. We've seen, if you watch the program, you've seen the UFOs flying over it. So it has a lot of significance. It probably does have portals. All the stories of UFOs flying into the mountain, into the mesa, and disappearing. It probably does have that ability, which is what possibly lets out creatures, lets out Bigfoots, lets out whatever it is that can go from one portal to another. So obviously we don't have all the answers yet, but I think certainly there's phenomena there that shouldn't, is not normal. So hopefully the program will keep going and we'll get some sort of answers. Thank you for the time check. Wow, okay, I really have to learn to stop doing 10-hour bloody lives. History and coins are going to sleep. Just scrolling down. David has wrote, what Anunnaki god did the Muslims follow? Technically, they've nicked a bit of each, so they don't seem to understand what they've actually done. So Marduk is Yahweh, so they've nicked Marduk, they've nicked Jesus' father, but they also nicked some of the information from way back when Enlil was God, main God, Most High. And they also nick some bits from obviously Enki's story, where he creates us, etc., etc. So Enki's got a lot of stories in the Bible, as well as in Sumerian texts and Babylonian, etc., and ancient texts. So yeah, they've nabbed a whole load and then thrown in some crap for themselves. Forgive me for saying that, but let's cut it to the chase. That's exactly how it plays out. Yeah. Because we've got the evidence that the only gods here were the Anunnaki. So anyone that comes on, Mormons, Islam, anyone that comes along and says God spoke to me and told me that he's the one true God and that I've got to write down stuff that matches the older stuff, no, it's the Anunnaki. Friendo has wrote, Egypt gods are washed. I hope so, but I know Cleopatra used to have a good old bath. Thank you, Carmen. So yes, I would imagine the Egyptians also had a good wash. Crackers wrote, is Jehovah a translation meaning Enki? No, it's not. Jehovah, if you watch my documentary, feel free to go to my website and see the video called Who Jehovah Really Was. You'll find that Jehovah was a name that was made way down the line, but was talking back about Marduk. So that's why Jehovah's really only in the Old Testament, because that's where Enki did his things. So it's a name where religious people say, oh, it's a name, it's Adonai, which is a name that sort of is allowed to be not so that we don't have to say the word Yahweh, even though we carried on saying the word Yahweh. No God's going to say, right, stop telling my name to just one person and hope that one person goes around the whole planet and tells everyone to stop saying the name. I mean, it's ridiculous. Religious people just haven't got a clue. No, so Jehovah is Enki, but it was a name that came along way, way later to write stuff about Enki from the past, if that makes sense. My gut feeling is it was a name after Enki had died. I think it was a name they then sort of gave to Enki after he died. That's my gut feeling from everything, and I'm normally fairly right. Cotswold wrote, would it be fair to think the Vatican has the Library of Alexander by any evidence? If so, very interesting question, actually. Some brilliant questions tonight. This has got to go on YouTube. Go number one in the class. That brilliant question. Obviously, the stories of Alexander, getting destroyed and so on and so on. we have got some. Oh, thank you, sunflower. You gave me a flower as well. That's nice. Thank you. So we have got stories, and I think we've also got some evidence that Alexander was destroyed. So would all of that library be saved? Not really. However, what we do have is, because they were libraries, and including the library in Nineveh. Sorry, I'm yawning. We do have the fact that the libraries actually copied the texts, so it was literally like a photocopy, even though they write it out by hand. So when they was lending out tablets, they would actually recreate the tablet, and so someone would then wander off with a copy of the original tablet. So could the Vatican have copies of what was in Alexander Library and Nineveh Library before they got destroyed? Yes, absolutely. I mean, they've got, the British Museum's got more than one copy of many tablets, so it's not inconceivable that the Vatican would not have the same tablets from maybe a different library, or from even Marduk's own personal library, for all we know. So yes, it's totally possible that they have a lot of those tablets that we'll never get to see, unfortunately. James has wrote, Clarkey, look to the USA for the answers. You might be surprised. 3 has wrote, laugh out loud, seriously, you don't already know. Look outside the reality. So again, another one of these people that can't debunk me, has no idea what they're talking about, and just makes up a lot of crap. No worries at all. 3. It's not your fault. You shouldn't. So, you really should have just followed me instead of making up crap. Telling me that I don't know what I'm talking about. Well, you didn't even tell us what you're talking about. Oh, I don't know. JJ's wrote, why is it wherever I go into one of your lives, the blue and pink circles keep turning and no sound? I have a gigabyte internet connection. Obviously, I'm using a phone, so it drops it down. But I can only imagine it's probably your end. I don't, or TikTok doing it. So I don't know the answer to that, I'm afraid. Obviously, I can't see anything on this side because I'm the host, so I can't really, unless I had another phone. So I apologise for that. Sorry. Seth has wrote, mermaids exist in the mind. So let me guess you don't follow me. No, of course you don't follow me. So what Seth doesn't understand is research. So if Seth done some research, they'd find that the oldest known carvings of mermaids was Anunnaki. We've even got a three-dimensional carving of a mermaid from the Anunnaki, sitting beside, and it was small, sitting beside one of the Anunnaki. Probably Enlil. So if you did your research, which you obviously haven't, you might change your mind. Now, I have got a book. It's too late now for me to read the chapter out about where the Japanese skeleton was found 200 years ago for a mermaid, but it's too late for me to read that. But yeah, so Seth, shush, do some research before saying mermaids exist in the mind. You got to remember, the Anunnaki genetically modified creatures. We're here. We've got fused chromosomes. We've got part Neanderthal and part something missing, the missing link. So clearly we were manipulated. So if you say no such thing as mermaids, then you should really do some research. I have done an amazing, if anyone's interested in mermaids, I have done an amazing video on my website. In fact, I've got thousands of videos covering all sorts of things. Just go to my website, ourtruehistory.co.uk, and you'll see. James, how can people climb mountains with a axe and nails? I'm guessing that's a rhetorical question. They have rope as well, and they climb using their hands. And when they get so high, they hammer in a bolt of some description, and then they tie the rope around that bit, and then they go up a little bit more. So it's not Maybe watch some videos on rock climbing. Chris has wrote, is Zach okay? I don't think so. I think we hurt Zach's feelings because no one was listening to him because he was making up a lot of stuff that is just made up stuff. So I think he got his little feelings got hurt. Mr. T has wrote, who is the overall creator? Again, you're assuming there has to be an overall creator. I'm guessing you may be slightly religious to have that mindset. I might be wrong, but I don't have that mindset that there has to be a creator. You do realize if you watch my one of my latest TikTok videos, astronomers have seen these two galaxies that are actually battling each other. Basically, they're swirling into each other, totally destroying every single thing inside the galaxies. Now, that will happen to us in, our solar system will smash into another solar system. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but it definitely will. So, if a creator created us, he's not the world's greatest creator because he's going to lose all the people in it at some point or another. I would probably have done a better job, can't help it. I'm just, I would have planned a little bit better than he did. So when you say who's a creator, not the world's smartest person or alien or entity, because we're all going to die at some point. Thanks very much for that. You designed it in such a way that these bloody solar systems and galaxies keep bashing into each other. So when you say who's the overall creator, no one's the overall creator. Now, how the universe started, have no idea. So there could be a creator, but you can't say who it is. All you can say is, if there is one, do we know anything about it? That's really all you can say. Eddie's right. I think Zach means religions are a covert. Sorry, and then you wrote a cover up to stop the sin truth. Religions cover up? No. Catholics was to do with the Enlil's pantheon of gods, and then Christians was just following Marduk. So no, we've got all the evidence we need. So no. James, how many mud floods was there? I don't know. I've not counted how many mud floods there are. If you have the monsoon season, you have mud floods pretty much daily. So I'm guessing you're trying to say how many mud floods was there in America, for example. So you need to be a little bit more specific. Sorry, I don't mean to sound rude, but there is mud floods anywhere there's a heavy rain and a hill and mud, you will get mud floods. Sorry. I'm not being rude. I'm just saying that's what actually happens. Kid has wrote, he's so behind, I don't even want to ask my question. So, would you rather me just ignore everyone else and go to yours?
God, it's still wet.
Why yours? How about I ignore everyone else's and go to someone else's? You see what I mean? So I read every single question out. So I apologise, but I'm not gonna. If you take the time to write it. I take the time to read it. Leo's wrote, I have just joined. What is the difference in the two columns, please? Nothing. I just thought I'd do it. So it's a bit of a attention grabbing, but I can see why you asked that. Very good. Well spotted. But yeah, no, it was just. I figured all yellow would just, people would probably just think, oh, it's a load of writing, I won't bother reading it. So I figured if I broke it up, it might help people stop and see something on there that they might be interested in. But good question. Gary's wrote any of the answers. Gary doesn't follow me. He's put a laughing face and has... I just don't even know. Just bye. Kay has wrote, what about Hindu gods? So I've looked into them. Haven't got smoking gun evidence, but from my belief, the three main ones, Brahma, I can never remember the names. There's three lots of three. Vishnu, tired now. Vishnu, Shiva, and whatever the other one was called. And so there's three lots of three. Way back, the very first lot, they had beards, or some of the carvers had beard. And then further down the line, over a longer period of time, they didn't bother putting the beards on them. So my opinion is that they are King Anu, Enki, and Enlil. Everything leads me to that, but I don't have a smoking gun at the moment. I mean, in fact, if you look, Shiva's even got Shivan's even holding the trident. Guess who holds the trident? Enki. Guess who else holds the trident? Poseidon. Guess who else holds the trident? Neptune. Guess who they all are? Enki. So everything leads to what I think is correct. Alberto's wrote, would it be possible for the Antichrist to be an Anunnaki? No, ignore Antichrist. There's nothing to see here. Ignore that. Load of rubbish. It's just another adversary that people... It's just nothing. It's nothing. You know, we've had 2,000 years, hasn't popped back. No one's popped in to see us. Another 2,000 years. It'll be a billion years before someone goes, do you know what? Remember that Antichrist that was supposed to pop along? Yeah, wasn't it Donald Trump? No. Wasn't it Bill Gates? No. Wasn't it that bloke in the hood? No. Do you see my point? Ignore it. Just ignore that. Nothing's going to happen. You'll ask that question till we die, and then you'll go, maybe not. Then nothing's going to happen. Gatecrashers wrote, so tell me what makes you an expert in all these topics. 40 years of research debunking other people, including museums, Assyriologists, Egyptologists, with evidence that no one else can debunk me. Would that class as an expert? I think so. Cotswolds wrote, got a number 1 and 2 in class tonight. Happy with that. I haven't been paying attention to who gets what, so very well done. Very well done. It's so close. You shouldn't have told me that, because if you do ask me one more question, I'll probably be thinking, do I have to put in 3? Because now I know. Not that I would never, but you know what I'm saying. Craggers wrote, thoughts on Graham Hancock. I think he's right in some things, and I think he's wrong in others. There's a video that he was waffling on about, saying that he can tell us why humans built the pyramids, and then I break that video down and totally destroy his comments about why he thinks humans built the pyramids. And then, in fact, fairly recently, he's now saying that he doesn't think humans built the pyramids. So, yeah, people make mistakes. Luckily, so far, touch wood, I don't seem to have. But so he's right in some things and he's wrong in others. I like Graham. I don't think he's perfect. I don't think he'll ever be perfect. I don't mean to sound. I've listened to him, chatting to other people about Anunnaki and stuff, and he just doesn't grasp it. He hasn't researched the Anunnaki enough to understand them. He's researched ancient buildings, and stuff like that. No problem at all. It's the same as Brian Forrester. He's researched, old ancient buildings, brilliant. But when it comes to who built the buildings, they haven't done the research. So I think Graham's always going to be missing something, because he should have spent 2 or 3 years looking at the Anunnaki, understanding them, so that then he can then turn around and say, I know why that's there, I know why that's there. So he's missing a lot because of his lack of knowledge in it, which is a shame. I don't mean to sound rude, I'm not meant to. Gatecrashers, how do you know about these topics? I research every single day for 40 plus years, and for some reason or other, I have a very logical brain and an analytical brain and a bit of an intellect to seem to piece together things that no one else has even seen. But I'm crap at many other things, so this is all I'm good at. I wouldn't say all that I'm good at, but Kerry's right, 11 p.m. Wow, okay, I'm nearly there though, nearly to the bottom. Rosemary's right, what time did this live start? Sorry, I missed it. I think I started about 8. I was just flicking through movies and stuff, and yeah, so it was about 8. So 8, 9, 10, 11. So a few hours sitting on my bum. John has wrote, haven't heard your lives in ages. You got back on TikTok. I hope you and your son are okay. Oh, thank you, John. I haven't actually been off of TikTok. Just what happens is TikTok doesn't notify people, unfortunately, because they don't like me telling the truth, I guess. But thank you so much. Yeah, Clark's fine. Thank you for even remembering. Wow. Thank you, John. Bless you. I hope you're well. I hope everyone that you know is well. Everyone on the planet, I hope, is well. Kid has wrote, do the Anunnaki have enemies? Oh, interesting question. They have themselves, absolutely themselves. Yeah, I mean, they used us as pawns. Why do you think, the walls of Jericho? Why do you think the Philistines and the Israelites and the Canaanites and the Hittites and any other tights, men in tights. Yeah, they had wars amongst themselves and they used as spawns. Outside of that, they never mention any other alien race whatsoever. There is a possibility that they knew of an alien race that goes into the elongated skulled field, but there is no mention that they had a war with anyone else. Now, I know there's people out there that will say, oh, they had a war with the Atlanteans, they had a war with the Lemurians, they had a war with Mu, they had a war with, or spoke, was being run by the reptilians, and they and they just made up a load of crap. So there is nothing that I've ever read where it gives any impression whatsoever that the Anunnaki were at war outside of themselves. Donna's still here. Hello, thank you, Sass. Thank you, SASS. I hope I pronounced that right. Thank you, that was nice of you. TikTok has wrote, is Enki a good god? He's dead now. Yes, he was a good god. He did have, relationships with his daughter, and then his daughter's daughter, and then his daughter's daughter's, and then his daughter's daughter, and his daughter's daughter. If you class that as bad, then he's bad. He obviously didn't class it as bad, but I would class that as bad personally. But as a whole, he was a good guy. He saved us many times. So he's a good guy in that way. Jonas wrote, does the comet Enki, not sure if that's how they spell it, have anything to do with the Anunnaki? The comet Enki. I've never heard of a comet Enki. Let me just check that. I've never heard of a comet Enki. That would be interesting, because the comet was originally the Anunnaki called comets dragons. Let me just check. Is there a comet called Enki?
Yes, there is a comet called Enki. It's a short period comet that orbits the Sun roughly every 3.3 years. It was named after the German astronomer Johann Franz Encke, who calculated its orbit.
Okay, so we got the answer there. So it's not based off of Enki, the old god Enki. It seems to be based off of some German dude with the name, some German. The German flew a Fokker. Sorry, it was an aeroplane. So it doesn't seem to be to do relation to the Anunnaki on that one, but interesting. Didn't know that. Thank you for that. Craggers wrote, it is saying Amen worshipping Amun-Ra. It's technically it's worshipping Marduk, but which is Amun-Ra, which is Ra, which is Aten. So yes, you could say that. Yes. So Amen is Marduk's name. Technically, it's a facet of Marduk's now. I could go into more detail, but it's the same as Armen. Armen's a facet of Marduk, which was Ra. Too late for me to go into detail. I'm just trying to get to the end here. Becky's wrote, can you explain who the Anunnaki are? So, the Anunnaki is a race. They're called gods. Their race name is gods. The Anunnaki is a name for the older gods, and the Ajiji is the name for the younger gods. In the Bible, you'll know them as gods, and then later on, one of the Anunnaki, one of the older gods, changed everything from everything being God. So back in the day, we used to have God for summer, God for winter, God for the sun, God for you name it. There was a bloody God, because there was about 2,000 gods here on the planet. Marduk took over as the main god and became Yahweh and changed everything to monotheism. We've got all the evidence we need of all of this. Once he'd done that, now these are the same gods that created us. These are the same gods in the Bible. We've got all the tablets we need to prove that. So when Marduk took over, what happened was he changed everything to monotheism. We've got tablets in the British Museum that tell us that. We've got plenty of tablets to tell us that. So Marduk changed everything to monotheism, And then people started calling him the God of Israel instead of the God of the universe, because obviously it wasn't a God of a universe, it was Anunnaki, or gods as an alien race. They look like us. In fact, we look like them. We're in their image, in their likeness. We've got tens of thousands of carvings of them, so we know exactly what they look like. They were taller, probably 20 foot tall. All the carvings and the text, etc., suggest that they were about 20 foot tall. I cover myself sometimes by saying 8 to 12 foot tall, but really everything, the doorways, the images, the descriptions, everything, not just, they're the same gods in Norse, they're the same gods in Roman, they're the same gods in Greek, India, etc., Egypt. So we know who they are. We've got we've got enough evidence. So if you're interested in seeing evidence, if anyone wants to see the evidence that the Anunnaki were the gods in the Bible, I say it every single freaking day. Who wants to see the evidence that the Anunnaki were the gods in the Bible, and that they created us, and that they were real, and that they were aliens? Who wants to see the evidence of that? All you have to do is go to my website, ourtruehistory.co.uk. It's a YouTube video. You can get to it from my website because I can't remember the title on YouTube. Click on the home page where it says click here at the bottom. So all you have to do, sit back, watch 10 minutes of that. It's hours long. Watch 10 minutes of that and go, wow, solved, job done, end of. Now we know what the Bible's, now we know what Islam, now we know what Mormons, now we know what every other religion that pokes its bloody head up in ancient times is about. Solved. Excellent. Well done, Our True History. Amazing research. That's all you have to do if you want to see the evidence that the Anunnaki were the... Thank you, Carmen. If you want to see the evidence that the Anunnaki were the gods. And then once you've watched that, thank you again, Carmen. Once you've watched that, then go back to my website where it says search. Don't bother searching. Just scroll. Just click on search and just scroll. And you'll find thousands of videos there that you might find interesting, because now you know the Anunnaki were the gods in the Bible. You'll see videos that will just make everything make sense. Cotswold very last, did interbreeding not affect the Anunnaki? It's a very good question. I think I might have had it once before, but I can't remember. And I was just about to put you in number 3. I think, didn't you say you won 2 already? So it's fair enough. I'm going to put you in number 3. Well done. So I think you've got 1, 2, and 3 now. I do like new questions, but I haven't had that, and I can't be 100% sure I didn't say it but not been asked it. I think I've mentioned it, but I don't think I've been asked it, so that's why I put you in number 3. So well done. You're catching up with some of the other guys now. So did the Anunnaki not affect their breeding? So they didn't breed direct. So, for example, if someone had a direct sister, they wouldn't breed. They couldn't breed or didn't breed directly with a direct sister, but they would breed with a half sister. So that's about as close as they could get for whatever reason. I don't know. I'm guessing that they weren't allowed. That now there's no mentions of deformities that I've ever read from the Anunnaki. That's not to say they didn't have them, but there's no mention of deformities. Did they have people that was, more backwards than forwards? I don't know. Because obviously the ones that were probably more backwards than forwards probably didn't ever get written about, to be fair. So I doubt if we'll ever know whether that is the case. I mean, the thing is, the funny thing with the Anunnaki, when you read all the tablets, clearly they're, very, very smart. They knew astrology, they knew, how to build Stonehenge, and they knew how to build buildings. They had all this, knowledge. But when you read the tablets, they come across thick. They do. I can't help it. They do. They come across like they're a little bit simple. And I don't mean this to sound rude, but they do. Now, you could argue, well, you've only got so much space to write on a tablet. But they do repeat things over and over and over on the same tablet, over and over. Now, apparently that's done as a way of learning by repetition. But, if you've only got a small tablet, do you really need to repeat it? Can't they just reread the same tablet twice instead of having the same paragraph written 5 times? So some of their logic, some of the things that they say, does make me think they're a bit simple in some ways. So, is the inbreeding causing them to be a little bit simple? I don't know. Maybe it's just me the way I'm reading it, but they didn't mention any ill effects of them breeding with each other. So, for example, Ninurta was the son of Enlil and his half sister Nimna, and Ninurta, from everything that I've read, turned out fine. So I guess they don't seem to have that much of a problem. Now the other question is how many generations does it take for them to have issues? I don't know. I'm not a geneticist, but if it requires 10 generations, you got to remember the Anunnaki possibly only started inbreeding when the war happened, and they listed about, what was it, probably 10 other gods before before Anu came along. So it's only 10 generations, say, so of inbreeding. Probably not everyone inbred back then. Probably it was only the rulers because of the rule of what they called the rule of succession. So hard to say the answer to that. You'd need to look into alien genetics, really. Anunnaki. Thank you, Millie. So there's a lot of variables. Is it only the royals that inbred because they obviously wanted to keep the line of succession? Others may not have even bothered inbreeding. So yeah, I think there's too many variables for me to be able to answer that, I'm afraid. But it's a good question. Cotswolds, sorry, I forget. I didn't ask at the time. It's late. Thank you, as always. Oh, you're more than welcome. Craggers wrote, is Nibiru part of the Pleiades star system? No, Nibiru is a planet here in our solar system that comes between Jupiter and Mars and goes out to Pluto every 3,600 years. So it's not in the Pleiades star system at all. Some other bad researchers will tell you that some of the Anunnaki come from the Pleiades. Ask them for evidence and watch them squirm. They'll just say some text, and you'll say, well, show me the text. They won't. They won't. You know who I'm talking about. Most of you do. Becky's wrote, thank you. You're more than welcome, Becky. That's why I'm here. Systematics wrote, hello, everyone. Hi, Systematic. You kind of remind me of Asterix and Obelix and Get a Fix and all of those names. Systematic. Dogmatic. Sorry. Anyone remember Asterix? Thank you, Phil. Bless you. Thank you. I want to say bless you. I'm not on about God blessing you. I'm on about, thank you. Kerry wrote, don't tell Alfredo that Coswalls has 1, 2, and 3. Yeah. Alfredo. Sorry, Alfredo. Andy wrote, Anunnaki, very clever, but wouldn't think of pockets. I know. This is what I did on the video. I was like, they have a bag. None of the carvings, none, not one carving of them can I find them with a pocket. They have bags, but no pockets. This is why I was saying I think they're a little bit simple in some ways. I'd love to know when the pocket was first invented, because the Anunnaki would have probably went, oh my God, why didn't we think of that? Yeah, crazy, isn't it? Crazy, yeah. Millie's wrote, who translated their tablets? Oh, many people over 200 years. Oxford University translates them even to this day. They reread them. They go back and tinker with them, and then they write the different version. They'll put footnotes and stuff as to say why they've changed such and such. Many hundreds of people have translated the tablets over 200 years. So it depends on what tablets you're referring to. Some of the tablets have been smashed up by the military when they went into Baghdad. So all we've got now is translations of tablets, that was translated 200 years ago that we now no longer have the tablets because they've been smashed up. So, but yeah, we do have many people translated those tablets. Phil's wrote, laugh out loud, no worries. Cotsworth wrote, weird, but my last question has disappeared. Last 3 lives. I don't know. I've read everything that I think I could read. Becky's wrote, why would they smash them up, the tablets? They don't. No one wants us to know about the Anunnaki. No one. Because once you realise that, then all the religions will crumble, and us being at war with each other, they want us to be at war with each other. We wouldn't be at war with each other over stupid religion. So that's the first problem. Second is, once we know that there's alien gods out there, you know, they're race named gods, we'll be saying, well, hang on a minute, can we have some of their tech? And then we'll be saying, hang on a minute, you have their tech. You must have their tech. You're probably still dealing with them, and they want to depopulate us. Hang on a minute, and we'll all work all that stuff out. I've already done it, but you guys will start working all that out if they come out and let us know that. So they smashed up the tablets so when they went into, they've done it twice in the Baghdad Museum. Now, the head curator has said that only the tablets that were genuine were smashed up. The ones that are plaster from other tablets around the world, they weren't touched, which means the people that went in there knew what they were bloody well doing. So yeah, and in fact, 2 years ago or something like that, the American military actually apologized for going in and smashing up tablets and stealing them. So yeah, they did return some, but whether or not they're now genuine or whether or not they've changed them, I don't know. But yeah, they don't trust the military at all. Millie's right, I only asked because has the Bible not been translated from way longer ago? Excuse my ignorance. No worries. So the Bible was written over a long period of time, but it was probably started before Jesus was born and then finished sometime after Jesus was born. But the tablets that the Bible copied from date back, and if you listen to Irvin Finkel and myself, which he agrees with, which is fantastic, because I'm probably one of the only people. There is a few others that say that the dates that mainstream say are whacked out completely wrong. But basically, you know, the Bible would have probably been started maybe let's just be conservative and say 1,000 years before Christ. But the tablets date back 9,000 years before that, so or 8,000 years before that. So the tablets come first, way before the Bible was even thought of, and the Bible copies the older tablets and stories, etc. So while the Bible was translated first, because we only found out the tablets about 200 years ago, and we could only translate the tablets 200 years ago. We could translate other tablets, Akkadian and Assyrian and stuff, because some of those are Semitic languages that we can actually understand, whereas Sumerian we didn't know until about 200 years ago. So, but some of those other languages do tell the same story as well. In Babylon, they tell many of the same stories that the Sumerian tablets do. So, all still well older than the Bible. If you're interested, visit my website. There's plenty of stuff there that you'll see and hopefully understand and watch and learn. Becky's right. I think the government have the tech all top secret. Absolutely, they do. Yeah. Thank you, Kerry. I just read what you just wrote there. Host is finishing. Thank you. Millie's right. I'm just heading to listen now. Good night, guys. Thank you. Andy's wrote, great live, and everyone involved. Night. It was a good one actually tonight. Some good questions. So I think I'll put this one on YouTube. Cotswolds wrote, great live, brilliant as always. Thank you, mods. And Darwin's, thank you for a brilliant live. No, it's you guys asking the excellent questions. I did put so many things in the background. I was going to put so much more. But I'm surprised that it all comes back down to the Anunnaki still, doesn't it? I should have put crop circles and stuff, but yeah, interesting. But if anyone's interested in anything that I've waffled on about, plus so much more, so much more, just visit my website. Honestly, you'll find something with evidence that you'll just be blown away by. Nicole's wrote, "Thank you, Altrice. You're great love." Oh no, thank you guys. It's honestly, it's you guys. And Craig has even wrote big love. Oh, thank you guys. And Kerry's wrote, "Thanks." So you'll know it's you guys. Honestly, I just do what I do, and if it's not for you guys, if I'm stuck with silly people like we had tonight, a few of them, no one will probably I just wouldn't get any information out. But it's you guys asking some brilliant questions tonight. It's good. Emma Fraser, where do I find you on YouTube so I can listen to this live from the beginning? So I haven't put this particular live up yet on YouTube because obviously I haven't even finished it. But if you go to my website, sorry to point you to my website because my YouTube name is they limit me, they block me, so sometimes people can't find me. So if you go to my website, click on the search bar or scroll down to the bottom where it says click here or search, you'll see videos that's on YouTube. Just click that and it'll take you through, and then just save it as a subscription or whatever you want to do on YouTube, whatever it is, follow or whatever it is. So you can get to it. So if you can't find me, it's Our True History, but if you can't find me on YouTube, it's because they limit me. Go to my website, ourtruehistory.co.uk, have a little play around there, click the search button, and then just click one of the ones that says YouTube, and it will take you to YouTube. So you can certainly get to it from that way. Carmen's right. I'm happy I found you. Oh, I'm happy you found me too, Carmen. Thank you. I can't help but think Carmen Diaz. I can't help but think of Cameron Diaz. Sorry. Craig has wrote, "Are the Nephilim the offspring of the Anunnaki?" No, they're the offspring of the Anunnaki and humans that had gigantism. So they're technically still demigods because they're part human and part Anunnaki, but they seem to have gigantism because the descriptions of them were bigger than their parents. And if the Anunnaki were 20 foot tall, which I do believe they were, then they would have been bigger than them. And so the stories of them eating people and stuff make a lot more sense than them just being 8 foot. Like some people say they were. They were 8 foot. I don't think 8 footers are that hungry that they're going to eat people. 36 foot, which is, we've got a finger bone from a 36 foot person. Michael Tellinger's got that in South Africa. 36 foot. If you eat all the sheep and everything else, and which is what it basically says, they everything the Nephilim did, and then they started eating people. So you can kind of see how that would play out if they're 36 foot. I mean, how hungry would you get at 36 foot? Patricia's wrote, "Thank you. You're more than welcome." Amma Freya's wrote, "Cool, thanks." And Carmen Diaz has wrote, "I know it's okay. You can call me Cameron too. Everyone does. Sorry." Yeah, no, it's every time I see it, I'm thinking that name rings a bell. Why is it? And then I sort of pieced it together. Janice has wrote, "His YouTube channel is fantastic." Oh, that's nice of you to say. Thank you, Janice. I'll send you the money later for hyping me up. No, bless you. Thank you. Luna's wrote, "People were smaller than 2." Yeah, we obviously I'm 6'3", but normal Homo sapiens and stroke Homo sapiens, you're looking at 5'1", 5'2", 5'3". So yeah, they was even smaller. Okay, so I've reached the end. If anyone's interested in seeing the evidence of anything, we're snack size, yeah, Mars bar. If anyone's interested in seeing the evidence of anything that I said, plus thousands more documentaries, just visit ourtruehistory.co.uk, ourtruehistory.co.uk. Knock yourself out there. Time travel, Bigfoots, crop circles, crystal skulls, modern UFOs, ancient aliens, you name it, it's there, and they all have. I point to the evidence. Obviously, if I don't have evidence, I say I don't have evidence, but I use my vast years of research to conclude sometimes things that is probably right, but just don't have the smoking gun. So it's so much there. I'm sure you'll like. Thank you, Rosemary. Okay, I'm going to let everyone go and do whatever they need to do, go and have a better life than listening to me. Thank you, Millie. And I will catch everyone again very, very soon. Take care, everybody. Bye. Bye. Thank you. Bye. Good one. I'll put this on YouTube. I'll probably do it tomorrow night because I'm got to work tomorrow. All right. Bye, everybody. Bye.